5 minutes.
Hello, sir. Welcome. Thank you, sir. How are you doing?
Fine, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. How are you, Shadi, sir?
Yeah, thank you. So, Samir, I think now we should start right away.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I, CA Sachin Minyar, welcome you all for the 3 days virtual national conference on information technology, organized by Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICAI and hosted by Pune branch of WIRC of ICAI. I welcome the dignitaries on the dais, the virtual dais rather, friends. CA Chandrasekhar Chitay, Conference Director and Central Council Member ICAI, CA Samir Ladda, Chairman and Treasurer Pune ICAI, and our speaker for the first technical session, CA Anand Jangir sir. Friends, over past few years, we have seen a lot of changes happening in each and every sphere of our day-to-day life because of technological developments. Our profession is no excuse for the same. Few members present over here have been a witness to this change right from the days of manual accounting to computerized accounting, DOS-based systems to Windows operating system, and use of various softwares which have eased manual work to a lot of extent. Over the next 3 days, we shall be having various technical sessions on this use of technology, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, etc. in our profession. Without wasting any further time of all, now I invite CA Samir Ladda to give welcome address. Over to you, Samir.
Well, thank you, Sachin. Our President, CNAR Jambu Sereji, Vice President, CA Dr. Debashish Mitra, Manu Agarwal ji, Chairman of the Committee Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, ICAI. In absence here, all of them, they are busy in some other important functions today. They are expected, they will join tomorrow this session. Our Central Council member from Pune, CA Chitay sir, and the director of this conference. Today's speaker, the first CA Anand Jangir sir, and MOC, CA Sachin Maniar, and all the August audience. Welcome on this virtual national conference of information technology, organized by Digital Accounting and Assurance Board and hosted by Pune branch of ICAI, WRC of ICAI. First of all, I congratulate all of you for joining this 3 days virtual national conference. I personally thanks Manu Agarwal sir and our CA Chitay sir for coordinating and arranging this conference for Pune branch. Friends, over 500 participants is a very good participation from all of you. So thanks a lot for such a great overwhelming response for the digital conference on digital information technology. With this, I request Sachin Maniar for further process. Thanks a lot, Sachin.
Thank you, Samir. Now I would request Shekhar Chitay sir, our Central Council member, to express his views and address the gathering over here. Over to you, Chitay sir.
Namaskar, and a very good morning for this National Conference on Information Technology. At the outset, let me welcome Honorable Speaker, CA Anand Jangir sir, who would be sharing his vast experience in the field. As far as our Digital Accounting and Assurance Board is concerned, which is headed by CA Manu Agarwal and co-chairman as CA Dayanivas Sharma, that is doing outstanding work. As we are aware that this information technology has made a sea change in our professional practices. Basically, our profession was founded for the purpose of accounting and auditing, and later on it has digressed into taxation, initially direct taxes, thereafter indirect taxation. In case of accounting and auditing, now the entire field has been eclipsed by information technology. And if the person maintaining accounts or doing audit of accounts is not aware of information technology mechanism, nitty-gritties, it would be very difficult for him to practice in these two areas. With the advent of volume, maybe from 100% checking in say 1980s, 90s, the profession embraced itself to the technology of test checking, so that out of say 1 lakh transactions or 10 lakh transactions, you pick up some proportion of transactions, and based on that you draw conclusion for the whole population and report. But now with the advent of information technology, once again we are going back from test check to 100% verification. Because take example, the question asked in income tax audit is how many payments exceeding rupees 10,000 have been made in a day, otherwise than through banking channels. And if the transactions are 1 lakh or 10 lakh, howsoever brilliant the auditor may be, with the human eye or human based verification, it would be very difficult after verifying each and every of those 10 lakh or 1 lakh transactions to confidently say that, okay, these are the 5 transactions which are exceeding the prescribed limit. Moreover, as far as this time consumed is concerned, it may not be possible within 1 hour or 2 hours. It may take a couple of days. But if this particular assignment is interested to information technology tool, then in that case, within 5 minutes, if not correct, Anand Jangid can correct me, maybe in 30 seconds, the machine will tell that out of 10 lakh transaction, these are the 6 transactions which are beyond the rules. So this particular advantage is there as far as information technology is concerned. So most of the audits are being done or with the use of audit tools, and those audit tools will definitely be of help to the professional to render better services in assurance. As far as our committee for members in practice is concerned, it is going to acquire those audit tools very soon and make them available to the professionals, maybe at a very low cost, so that MSMEs can develop their audit practice. Coming to taxation, again, earlier it was more a human based. One has to read, one has to fill up the returns, go to the income tax office, furnish those returns, go for the purpose of assessment, wait there for 2-3 hours, attend the hearings, devote the time in commutation. There has been sea change. All these acts have been dispensed with and replaced by machines. So unless you are abreast with information technology, even taxation service, you are not able to render. So be it compilation of return, be it furnishing of return, be it hearings, be it direct tax or indirect tax, everything is now centered around information technology. So now this has become hub for the chartered accountants practice. And if we do not really walk with these times, it will be at our own peril. Therefore, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board is making continuous efforts in this particular direction to furnish the members with the updated information and knowledge. One more discipline which has been practiced now by many professionals is forensic accounting and investigation. Now, in case of forensic accounting and investigation, there is again a great demand. At times, newspaper articles say that, okay, chartered accountants are no more watchdogs, but they are also bloodhounds, and fraud also should be detected by them. Our Honorable President CA Nihar Jambusaria ji has addressed a press conference, and he has clarified that as far as an auditor is concerned or audit is concerned, it is a test function giving reasonable assurance of true and fair view of the statement of accounts. As far as fraud detection is concerned, it is part of investigation. It is part of forensic accounting and investigation assignments. If you expect auditors also to unearth these frauds and misappropriation of funds, profession is capable of doing that. But then the industry will have to consider whether they will bear the fees for doing auditing and forensic auditing simultaneously, which will be much more than the present audit fee level. So wherever situation warranted, maybe the enterprise can go in for forensic audit, and the auditor will make all endeavors to unearth the frauds. And as far as audit is concerned, it is providing reasonable assurance of true and fair view that has been clarified by our Honorable President. But then for the purpose of conduct of forensic accounting and investigation assignments, there has to be some ground rules. There has to be some code of conduct. Like in case of auditing, we have standards on auditing essays. So if you perform your audit alongside these essays, I think the result which emerges is much better. And it is recommended, not only recommended, it is mandatory under our code of ethics to follow those standards of auditing. On similar lines, now the institute is coming out with standards on forensic accounting. We will be one of the first institutes which will be promulgating these standards, and soon the council will adopt those standards. In the initial year, they will be recommendatory. Maybe when the profession matures, they may become, after recommendatory, they will become mandatory. So these standards will tell us that if any assignment on forensic accounting is there, an investigation is there, what all ground rules we are expected to follow. And that will also announce to all the stakeholders that if a chartered accountant is accepting forensic investigation assignment, then these are the ground rules he will be adopting, and therefore the results coming to the stakeholders would be much better, much appropriated. And therefore, in turn, we expect that chartered accountants are the coveted professionals who are interested with the assignment of investigation. One will appreciate that in case of an investigation, besides chartered accountant, there is also need of information technology professionals. There may be need of lawyers, and there may be need of other functional experts. I'm glad to inform you that Council has already passed a proposal for the purpose of multidisciplinary practice, the MDP firm. A chartered accountant can now be partner with cost accountant, company secretary, engineer, maybe IT engineer, any other engineer, architect, actuary, lawyer. So all these professionals can now be partners with chartered accountant, and maybe multidisciplinary services can be rendered by this chartered accountancy firm. So that has been approved by our council. Since we are created under an act of parliament, this particular resolutions need okay from Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And we believe that this particular sanction will come very soon, and we will be able to constitute multidisciplinary practices. So friends, these are the various arenas which underline the necessity of having inputs into the arena of information technology. We have very expert faculties for the entire course. I have personally discussed with Manu Agarwal and Dayaniwas Sharma, and they have assured that starting from Anand Jangid, you will see each day whatever topic is allocated to the faculty. I think you will certainly have the best inputs. Whatever your queries are there, maybe you can ask them, put them in chat box, and they would be able to respond to you with adequate expertise. I thank all of you for joining, which is more than 500 in numbers, for the purpose of this international national conference on information technology, which is hosted by our Pune branch of ICAI. Thank you and welcome to this course. Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chitay sir. In fact, it's my pleasure introducing our speaker for the first technical session, CA Anand Jangid sir. A passionate evangelist for tech-based disruption in audit and finance domain. Anand sir is not just a chartered accountant, but he's also a certified information systems auditor. He is managing partner at AJA. Anand was part of risk management team at Goldman Sachs, covering multiple audits across much geography for different functions in the organization. His areas of specialization were Forex audit, DP audit, anti-money laundering audit, Basel II, BCP and operational risks. Prior to Goldman Sachs, he was with ES Consulting Group at Infosys Technologies, Bangalore. Here he was involved in development of regulatory compliance framework for various compliances like Sarbanes-Oxley's Act, etc., and was also a part of team developing solutions for Basel II Accord implementation. His responsibilities included working in sync with project of Infosys Consulting, Dallas. He has been involved in enterprise risk management implementation and IT audit for many international projects at USA, UK, Japan, China, etc. He is also a visiting faculty at IIM Bangalore, teaching IS audit and fraud analytics. He is speaker at North America CACS and Euro CACS of ISACA. He is visiting faculty at ISACA ICAI and Wellinger Institute of Management. With this brief introduction, now I invite CA Anand Jangid sir to address the audience on the topic, key issues for adopting cloud computing for digital transformation. Over to you, Jangid sir.
Thank you, Sachin sir. Thank you very much. And thank you, Chitay sir, also for the opportunity. It was great to hear you, and what you are saying makes sense. And friends, as you can actually see, the kind of point which Chitra sir has told about, that of late, there is a lot of change which is happening. And for the discussion for today, see, if you see the slide, I have mentioned it, key issues for adoption of cloud computing and digital transformation. And I've put the location as Pune, but right now I'm sitting in Bangalore and giving you this talk. Now, that shows us that, one of the kind of, this is also cloud computing, I would say video on demand and all the things has actually been something what we call it as the impact of cloud computing, and the pandemic has actually accelerated that thing. I will say accelerated the adoption of cloud. Now, what I have thought is, because this session I was told that, I need to basically start from scratch. I need to be going in a mode where, we need to actually understand it from a perspective of all the things which are there. When I say all the things, I want to start from scratch what cloud computing is, and then take you through what I call it as the impact, what is going to happen, what are the key issues which are there, and also what are the solution for that, and what are the way cloud computing is impacting our, I would say, present, advisories in terms of audit and other areas. So that's something which we need to look into. So that would be the flow of our discussion today. Now, before I start, I just thought we need to understand cloud computing for digital transformation. So there's two words comes, very loud words, and I'm sure you are hearing this word again and again. So digital transformation, when anyone says digital transformation, what comes to your mind, friends? What do you think is that whole term of digital transformation? See, we need to understand, and feel free to give your questions or feedback, anything you have on the chat. I would be, because I'm using a dual monitor, so I can actually always see it on that. So feel free to let me on that. Amit, when I say transaction done digitally, that's not only digital transformation. Think bigger. When I say digital transformation, one of the example which comes to my mind is Indian Railway. How many of you here remember that the first time they brought e-ticket? Okay, they brought e-ticket. What was the process which was there? You have to take a printout of the ticket to get into the train. You remember that? I know personally, a lot of time I had a big problem. The reason was I have booked my ticket on IRCTC, but I forgot to take the printout. And I am actually traveling, and as auditor's job is always you're traveling. You're going from one place to other, and literally, if you forget to take one ticket, you are actually afraid that that guy would actually, the TC or the ticket collector, may remove you from the train. It happens, right? Because they have a right. Yeah. But today, what has happened? So today it has changed. Now, what has happened here, which we need to understand very clearly, is they said, is it required to have a paper ticket? The question was a BPR exercise. We call it as business process reengineering. You don't just try to automate. The days of using the word automation has gone. You don't just automate. What you are trying to do is you are transforming it. And when I say transforming it, it is not like just taking whatever we are doing in the same way and take it forward. Yeah, we have DigiLocker now. We have all this new concept. So now we don't have to be carrying all these things. I'm from Bangalore, and there was a time when you have to carry all the documents of the vehicle with you. If you can't show it, the police guy will stop you up. But what is happening today is if you just give, they will put your number and they figure it out everything. Where is the insurance? What is happening? And I have a very, good, I would say a very close relation with Pune, because I used to work for Infosys for a long, long time. And we have a Pune DC. I used to come there regularly. And, Pune and Bangalore used to be something like sister city. So there used to be always competition between these three cities, Pune, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, which one can go for more IT. So you guys are already in the hub of digital transformation. I can tell you that if you want to see one very interesting survey, under Startup India, there is a big, fight going on between these three cities, Pune, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, where the biggest startups are coming for. So they are transforming. You see the banking scene also. How many of you are seeing the kind of transformation which is happening in fintech? So digital transformation is happening. Now, the question we should understand is, Vivek sir put a very nice word called digital documentation by CFO. Prasanna, I think I'm audible. Is anyone having other issues with the audio or anything as such? Please let me know.
No, sir, you are audible.
All good, right? Thank you. So no problem. So the point which I'm trying to bring out is digital transformation is happening at two levels. One, it is happening for our clients. And as Chitala sir rightly said, and Sachin sir was also talking about that, we have to be ready for ourselves in terms of being able to provide services to our client on their digital transformation journey. Because friends, don't take me otherwise, but it may be possible that tomorrow, maybe in 5 years, they may not come to you for your regular financial audit. They may come and say that, can you please just audit the system in which we are actually having all this accounting done? And that is possible, that is required, right? And that's something which we need to understand. This is something which is first one. The second thing which is happening of the story is you have a digital transformation happening in CA firms. So I did my articleship from a very small and medium firm. And it was amazing articleship because I enjoyed it. I did everything, taxation and all thing. And I'm sure all of you have gone through that experience where if your client is giving reimbursement for food and conveyance, they are good clients. Okay, so it was an interesting thing. And during the last lockdown, one of our partner called me up, and we have been talking, because he was my mentor. And the partner called me up and says, Anand, now everyone is working from home, so I want to do this thing. So I actually tried my best, and whatever ideas I had, I gave it to him. And I was very surprised. You know why I was very surprised? Because I'm part of the group. I'm an alumni group of that firm where it is. It's called Sharma and Pagaria. It's a small firm, not a small firm. It's now a big firm here in Bangalore. And I just, got a mail this time for the second lockdown. The Bangalore, we had a lockdown. That was a mail which was sent to all the people and including on the alumni group, which was something like that, because of, Corona cases increasing, we are, proactively, without the lockdown being announced, before that only, they said we are all going to work from home. And based on that, what they are trying to say is, now, you have to contact on this portal. They have actually made an what we call as client portal, where you can give your request, your tickets and everything, and they are going to resolve it up. Now, 1 year, I have known them, like I completed my CA something around 2002. And still, we are knowing that I never have seen the kind of accelerated transformation that it used to be like the same way, how the works are going and all things. But today they are talking about Zoom meetings, having what we call it as, I'm not sure if you've heard about this areas like Microsoft Teams and all things for communication. And those are the things which were being done. And you see also in our institute also, as Amitji was saying, we have a big transformation happening today. We are sitting there, and there was a time, I remember this, I'll tell you, this is great. We are on the 73rd year of our, foundation day. We had our thing. And I remember when I was in Infosys, I was one of the convener of the CP circle in Infosys, because we have more than 3,000 chartered accountants. So we had a conversion. And that time what happened is we used to do CP session in Bangalore. And we had also chartered accountants from our Infosys Hyderabad or Infosys Pune. If they wanted to join, we can't give them CP, right? Because the point is that they are virtually out there. So in our institute also, we are seeing a lot of transformation. Now, all this digital transformation, one of the most important engine is cloud computing. So I'm just trying to tell you that whatever we are doing here, okay, that is also is on a cloud computing environment. And cloud computing is not a new thing. It is there for a very long time. When I say a very long time, I would say 7 to 8 years now, but it has become mature now. Every technology takes time to mature, and that is what it has happened right now. So we come in a phase where it has become more mature. So friends, that is something which we need to discuss. Now, as I told you, there are some part of the discussion which will be very, very, little, what we call it as basic for a lot of people. But because we are actually taking everyone together. So feel free. There are some initial part. If you are aware of that, you can put your input out there for everyone. But the most important thing which I want you guys to remember is we will be starting from scratch and taking it to the last level. That is how we do that. So let's start with our presentation, guys. Any questions, you can put it in the chat box. So we'll start with checking, which is, a kind of little importance I will tell you. And I'm not going to put it from my word. I will just show you some proofs to bring it out why it is one of the most important technology today and why we should adopt it. We will understand what is this cloud, what are the different models of the cloud, IaaS, PaaS, and all the things, which is a basic fundamental. But we should also know the cloud risk. There are a lot of risk in cloud, and that is something which we need to know the environment. Because when you go into a new environment, if you are not aware of that environment, then it is like a very risky area altogether. So we need to know that. How, as a chartered accountant, we can add value in terms of advisory, assurance, and finally we'll do a checkout. So that is going to be the agenda for today. Now I'll be actually having multiple screen coming and going because I'm using a dual screen right now. So feel free to let me know, and our session will go up to around I think 12, 11:30 we'll have it. Look, please keep it, let it interactive. I'm just trying to make sure it is, you actually take a benefit out of that. So in a between, I think what I have learned, I'm also a faculty at IIM Bangalore. So what we have learned in, this is also one of the risk of, a lot of Zoom meeting. We call that Zoom fatigue. So the point which comes is, as humans, when we do any sessions in a conference room or in an auditorium, there you can actually focus on for around 1 hour and all the things. But when you are doing it on a kind of a digital mode, where you are right now, all of you are seeing your laptop or a tablet or a mobile phone where you are attending this session, then it becomes very important that we keep it up. So maybe around 45 minutes or 50 minutes in our discussion, we'll take a 5 minute break just for you to relax yourself up and come back, because that is the new normal now. Earlier, this is never something which is done. Because in IIM Bangalore, our initial classes used to be 50 minutes, which we used to take it for the students. But off late, what we have done it, we have actually tried to give it up in a 50 minutes class. Also, we give a 5 minutes break in between just for the person to focus on that. So that's how our whole presentation will go. Okay. So now, yeah, Vivekji, that is a pretty interesting, right? So that's the kind of thing we are just trying to work up, is a digital transformation. So in the check-in, guys, I will actually try to talk about one very interesting report, which I always talk about. This is one of my favorite reports because this report, I actually stumbled upon this when I was actually, researching about my daughter. She is in class 10, and I wanted to know what she's going to do in her future. So I just came across this report, which was a very interesting report, which came in October 2020 and not very old, 6-7 months back. And this report, when it came, it was an eye-opener for me also, because it talks about what are the jobs which are going to come, what are the area which are going to do, next 5 years, what is going to happen, next 30 years, what is going to happen, and all this kind of things which are working it up. And that had one very interesting thing. You can actually go through the report at your leisure. I just want to go to the relevant point, which is there. There is figure number 18 in the report. The technology is likely to audited by 2025, and you see 17% share here. I'm just making it a little bigger, or I'll send you the link of, okay, I'm sorry. I'll send you the link of this report. You can actually see that on technology adoption. Here we go. You can see they're saying 17%. It is one of the most important technology where the companies are actually going ahead with that. So you can see the importance of this in terms of how this is going to be a very, very important area. And we need to be all working towards that. This report is very big, 163 pages report. I'm just putting this link on the chat box so you guys can download it and go at your leisure. The point which I'm just trying to bring out here is we are going to ensure it up from a perspective of ensuring that these things are the future which is going to work it out. Okay, so that is the first part on the check-in. Let's try to go to the next thing. Now the next thing is, let's go into an overview of cloud. What is this whole concept of cloud? Why it is so important? So if I have to make it very crude example for you, let me ask you one question. We all know about the concept of capex and opex. Am I right? Now, when we are taking any services or anything which we are doing, do we really pay for everything? Like, for example, if you have paid, 1 lakh rupees for your iPhone 9 or whatever it is, or now 11, sorry, I'm sorry, now iPhone 11, are you getting all the features? Are you using all the features which are there in that iPhone? Or any of the phone? Let's say you paid 30,000 for any phone. No, not at all, right? But you paid for that, right? What if I say that, okay, let's say, Mr. Venkatramanan, you can only pay for what feature you use. If you don't use it, I don't want you to pay for that. It would be like a utility, like, telephone companies. The more calls we make, more money we pay. Or electricity. The users are based on what? The unit consumed. So the architects who were there, so if you see the kind of a history of how computing started, we had first, a kind of computing was mainframe. Most of the, computing was consolidated at a bank, mainframe computers. Everything was centralized out there. Then we went to decentralized mode, which was basically every desk has a computer and you can actually work on that. And then we went back and said, it doesn't make sense. One person is using the computer at 80% utilization, one person is using it at 10% utilization, but they are both paying the same amount. Can we do something about that? Can we make computing? Please remember the word I'm using, computing. When I say computing, it is hardware services, software, networking, anything which is related to that. Can I make the computing services as a utility? When I say as a utility, the focus is simple and simple only, that I should pay for what I use. If I don't use it, I should not pay for that. Now you may think, how does it work? It works. Listen to that. Let me give one simple example. I'll come to the concept a little better. Let's try to see from a user perspective. Okay. Did you know there was a company which is now, I think they have changed their name, Reliance Money. Reliance Money, when it was launched, within 10 months, they got 1 million consumers or customers. Now, within 10 months, if you have 1 million customers, you have to buy that many servers, you have to buy the data center, set up all the things. No one can estimate this kind of speed at which things are moving. And today you require computing everywhere. So there are people who said, okay, can we do something like this? What is that? We would have on-demand self-service. What do you mean by on-demand self-service? Today, let's say, for example, you want to have a Zoom in your office. Now, what is the Zoom is doing it? It's a software as a services, which is giving you communication as a services, which is nothing but you pay a small amount and we are using the server of the Zoom for all the communication. All of you have connected. You have a client which is there. It is connecting to the Zoom server. The meeting ID is the unique thing, and we are all interacting. Now, it is not that Zoom has only made one server for ICAI. No, they have hundreds and millions of clients. All are doing it. And they have a very interesting thing. Think of this. If they have customer on both sides of the, I would say, planet, the North America as well as Asia, when it is day in North America, it is night in thing, they can actually use their servers more effectively or not. They can actually do that. There are a lot of benefits which they can get. So they have built one server environment, which is actually used as a on-demand self-service. You want to have more meetings, you can actually pay for more and take it up. It's on your demand. And that's something which you can take care of that. Point number one. Point number two, which is very interesting, is resource pooling. Okay. Today we have one very big giant in cloud computing called AWS. Amazon Web Services. You can see that if you're using any of the email from the banks are coming, they're coming from them. If you're using Uber and other things, their services are running on them. Now it is a resource pooling. All the servers which are required, the computing power which is required, as actually made together, and they are all being used out there. Now, in that kind of environment, what happens is you can have the economy of scale. I'm talking in business sense here, guys. Please think it only from a business sense. I can give access on broad network area. Everyone can keep broad out there. And I can have rapid elasticity. Elasticity means, have you taken a rubber band and gone it longer and brought it back? So when I require more services, let's say take example of ICAI. ICAI has an examination department and all things, but do they have to always have the examination result posted on maybe 2 days of the year, right? Twice a date or three, maybe 2 or 3 time we do that. Now for that, and you know that time how many people comes it. I remember when we were all doing CA also, and I heard it from a lot of other people, because our time it used to be not that much of computerization, but people used to sit on computers for hours together because the site was not accessible. The reason was, for only that short period of time, no one is going to buy 100 server and keep it out there. Now elasticity does that for you. What it does, I can actually today, I can maybe just show it to you right now. There is a site for, there is a public what we call it as service provider like Azure. Azure is from Microsoft. And if I go to the site of Azure, this is the site where I can get, and I can say that I would like to have for 12 months, for 2 months, how many hours I require. I can decide what I want. It is basically totally, on demand. I can actually go for it. Now, this is the kind of thing. So I have everything. We are giving around, so many products for 12 months free. So this is Azure. Now, point is that this gives us a complete picture. But before I can explain you all these things, I think I want to take you to some fundamental thing. I'll come to that fundamental, and that is something which I want to show you. Like a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that means a video would be, millions of words altogether. So instead of me telling you all that thing, let me show you 2 small videos which are there, very interesting videos. It will actually clarify a lot of our doubts, and then we can do a kind of a very important discussions on the fundamentals. So let's see these 2 videos. Let me just open it for you. One moment. Just a minute.
Your company has big ideas. To be as efficient as possible while being as profitable as possible. To reach this goal, your company will need business applications, which are usually very expensive and force you to enter a universe of complexity. In the old days, you needed a data center with security, storage, cooling, and power, as well as servers and storage. Plus, let's not forget development, testing, staging, and production, as well as failover and disaster recovery. Cloud computing is a much easier and affordable way to run your business. Instead of running your apps yourself, they can run in a shared data center you just plug in like a utility service. It's much faster to get started and costs far less. Let's compare Gmail to Microsoft Exchange. With Gmail, you don't need servers and storage or a technical team to perform upgrades and keep it all running. With Exchange, you do, and it's not cheap. And Gmail costs less because you don't need to pay for all the people and the products to run them. They're more secure, more reliable, and more scalable than the majority of current applications on the market. Why? Upgrades are performed for you automatically, giving your app security and performance enhancements as well as new features. Even the way you pay for cloud apps is different. You don't have to buy servers and hardware anymore. It's all contained in a predictable monthly cost. Finally, Cloud apps don't waste your valuable time, allowing you to focus on more important tasks like growing your company. Cloud computing is an easy way to improve your company's bottom line greatly, while allowing you to work from any smartphone or computer anywhere in the world at any time.
There's one more which you can just understand, and please keep a note of all the points which you may have a doubt on. I'll just play it.
You have big ideas to streamline your business and drive sales through the roof. But to get there, your ideas need business apps. And business apps have always been too expensive, especially in times like these. Behind each one is a world of complexity. They need a data center with office space, power, cooling, bandwidth, networks, servers, and storage. A complicated software stack, and a team of experts to install, configure, and run them. You need development, testing, staging, production, and failover environments. And when there's a problem, good luck. You call technical support, and they don't know, so they blame someone else. Oh, and when new versions come out, you would upgrade, but that might bring the whole system down. Now, this is for one app. When you multiply these headaches across dozens or hundreds of apps, it's easy to see why the biggest companies with the best IT departments aren't getting the apps they need. Small businesses don't have a chance. Cloud computing is a better way to run your business. Instead of running your apps yourself, they run on a shared data center. You just plug in, like a utility. This makes it fast to get started and it costs less. It's like Gmail compared to Microsoft Exchange. With Gmail, do you need servers and storage? No. Do you need a technical team to keep it up and running? No. Do you have to do upgrades? No. When you use any app that runs in the cloud, you just log in, customize it, and start using it. That's the power of cloud computing. This model is so much better, it's changing the way we think about software. Not just for consumer apps, it's also being used for business apps. We call this enterprise cloud computing. Businesses are running all kinds of apps in the cloud these days, including custom-built apps. Why? Because you can be up and running in a few days, which is unheard of with traditional business software. They cost less because you don't need to pay for all the people, products, and facilities to run them. And it turns out they're more scalable, more secure, and are more reliable than the vast majority of apps out there. Here's why. They're based on an architecture called multi-tenancy. With a multi-tenant app, there isn't a copy of the app for each business that's using it. It's one app that everyone shares. But it's flexible enough for everyone to customize for their specific needs. It's like a giant office building where everyone shares the infrastructure and services, like security, yet each business can customize their own office space. This means apps are elastic. They can scale up to tens of thousands of users or down to only a few. Upgrades are taken care of for you, so your apps get security and performance enhancements and new features automatically. Now, the way you pay for cloud apps is also different. Forget about buying servers and software. When your apps run in the cloud, you don't buy anything at all. It's all rolled up into a predictable monthly subscription, so you only pay for what you use. Finally, cloud apps don't eat up your valuable IT resources, so your CFO will love it. And you can focus on projects that really impact the business, like deploying more apps. Cloud computing is a simple idea, but it can have a huge impact.
So guys, I think you got a kind of a feel of all this point which was there. Whatever we are talking about, multi-tenancy, resource pooling. This concept, if I have to simplify for you, I would say just think of this as I can get any computing services as a kind of what we call as a tenant. You know, they have just given an example of a hotel building. You have one hotel, but we pay for the room which you use and how many days we are there. And that's a whole concept of having it. Compare this. Now you may think, okay, why is it better? Just that's the thing, comparison we should have it. And that is something where I was showing you the cloud, thing. So instead of if I go today and buy one server, okay, let's say, for example, I want to I'll just say I'll buy it instead of going for that. And I want to buy, let's say I'm just thinking of a solution of a server. If I want to buy a DL380 server for my office, it will cost me today in today's prices something around 3.5 to 4 lakh rupees, but I don't want to go for it. So what I can do is I can actually just pay for what is going to be my total, cost. So I will actually try to get a kind of a cost of the product or services which I'm going to do. And it will give me that, okay, I want a virtual machine, which is a server. You can see it on your screen right now. And I will say, okay, so this is like, I can actually put it up all my feature, what I want. I want it in India. They have all the feature, which part of the world you want for from a BCP perspective also, it works out. So it's all the putting of the resources together, right? So let's say I want it in central India. They have a, Azure has a data center in Pune only. So that will be coming, and I want it on Linux. And I want, I'm just telling you some example. Let's say 8 GB RAM, yeah, 2 CPUs. It's enough for me, virtual machine, and I'll pay it for 3 years. Usually what we call it as, what we call it as from a perspective of computing power. The average life of any computing is 3 years. So I'll just put it 3 years. And you can see here right now what is happening. My monthly cost is coming to only $28. Now I will not be paying upfront 3.5 to 4 lakh rupees. Because even if I want to buy a server today in India, you would be shocked to know that it will take me a kind of a lead time of at least 3 to 4 weeks before I can get a server. It is not like immediately I can get it. And here I am getting one server immediately at a cost of $30. It's around 3,700 to 2,700 rupees per month. Now, can you imagine that? Even if you multiply it up, and all of you know, time value of money. I am paying money 3.5, 4 lakh rupees initially, or I spread it about this one, which one will be better for me? It's an OPEX expenses instead of going for a CAPEX. I hope you understood the point, which is why I'm doing it. It's an on demand as I want. I can actually get it right now. So yeah, I will be coming to that. The challenges and everything, I'll come to that. No problem. But my point is that I hope you understand why it is such a great technology, Ravi. Yeah. So Ravi has a very good point on the security and other things. I'll come to that. But let's try to first understand the point which we are seeing right now here. So the cost and the important things which we were actually seeing out here in terms of the feature, rapid elasticity, on demand, resource pooling, cost, measured services, all these things come up there. I hope we are clear on that. And then these are the two main things. We call it the service model and the deployment model. And this is also one of the fundamentals which we should be aware of. So when we are talking about the deployment model, friends, yeah, Niranjan, it's a very good point. You have put it out here. So I am actually saying that I will actually have 4 general types of, cloud deployment models. And this is very important, right? When you talk to see, we will be talking about something called as just like we have risk control metrics, we have a cloud control metrics. So if you want to understand that, these fundamentals are very important to know. If you don't know these fundamentals, the next part is going to be like all Greek and Latin for us. Okay. So here what is happening is we have something which we call it as our public cloud, which I showed you. It's like everyone can have it. I just showed you Azure, AWS. There is nothing which is stopping you from doing it. No issues at all. And we can just do how we would like to take care of that. The second one is called as the private cloud. Now, private cloud is for whom? This is basically for large companies like IBM is there, Infosys is there, TCS. They will actually make their own what we call it as cloud, private cloud, and they will give multiple people access to that. So it is managed by them only. So that is the kind of product, but it is resource pooling. There are not thousands of servers. It's like one cloud where everything happens. And by the way, let me tell you one very important thing, which a lot of people ask me this question. Why is it called cloud computing? So I don't know if you know this or not, but if you have done flow charting, the symbol of internet in flowchart is a cloud. What happens in the cloud, no one knows. So that is the reason it is called the cloud computing. It's happened on the internet, and you need to use internet for access to this. So it becomes very, very important that we should have this out there. The third type of this is called hybrid cloud. A lot of companies use it. They will have their private clouds used as much as possible. But whenever they have challenge, when I say challenge, whenever they find big, what we call as challenge in terms of sudden spike or anything, they may go for what we call it as your hybrid cloud, which means 90 to 100% would be private cloud, or 5% or 6% would be public cloud. That is called hybrid, a mix of both. Or the last one, which is the most interesting thing, is called community cloud. It is nowadays being used extensively. Now, what is community cloud? Okay, so let me just, how many of you love to watch car crash videos? You know, this car crash testing, they do it. Have you seen? No one likes it. So maybe I'll just show you one of that just for your purpose. And here we go. Let me just, one moment. Let me put it out there on the screen so that you know what I'm trying to say. Here we go. Okay. This kind of car crash videos, have you seen it? They will be actually taking all brand new cars and they will test them up. You know, this is for ADAC and other things, which is, there are bodies in US, Global NCAP. They are all the people who will be doing car testings. Just to tell you what are the cars which are safety rating. You know, you can see this Datsun has a safety rating of 0. So the point is that they will be trying to see all this airbags, how it is working, how does the people survive in the car test and all things. Now, all of you know that this is a very expensive testing. They will take brand new cars and they will crash it out. Now, the companies which are designing cars, they want to simulate these things beforehand. So they will try to do the simulation of this. When I say simulation of this, yes, this is not simulation. This is live. This is actual one. But before they do that, they want to do it as a simulation. Now, for the simulation, you require a huge computing power. When I say huge computing power, have you noticed one thing where, I don't know if you've known this, games called Need for Speed and all the things, car crash happens in that, and very realistic car crash happens. But that is not checking every point and everything's out here. Now, what they are trying to do is, they, like Automobile Association of India, they actually had a kind of same approach. They said, we are going to launch 10 models to 15 models per year. Only for that, why should we invest? Like, the whole environment will cost you something around 40-45 crores, which will simulate the whole thing up. Not actual cars, it will basically simulate the car in the computing environment. So they came out with a better approach. They said, we can have a community cloud and every can use it. Let's say there are 8 companies which came part of that. They can use it as a time sharing kind of thing. So that is a concept of what we call it as a community cloud. Okay. And that is something which is important. And why I showed you this video, as Sashikant sir rightly said, RI in ARAI, Pune, they do this kind of testing also. Okay. They don't do at that scale, but yes, this is an interesting area where you will be testing all the cars for doing it. So instead of doing for a huge number of real life cars, you can do the simulation first, tweak it up and have a better design from a safety perspective. I have got my point. Public cloud, private cloud, hybrid, and community. I hope it is clear, guys. Any questions on that? I hope you are clear on this. Yeah, feel free. Okay, hybrid. Okay, Venkat sir, what happened? Hybrid is, it is, if I have to give a very simple example, this is like, let's say Venkata sir invites us to his home. Okay. And he says that all the 500 people will be treated with samosas at his house. So we all go to his house and he has already prepared 1,000 samosas because he knows 500 people are coming to his house. Now, we do is, we are Badmash chartered accountant. So we go 1+, which means we take one of our friend also with us. So instead of 500 people, how many people go for the party of Venkata sir? We are 1,000 people going for the party. Am I right? Now, Venkata sir has made 1,000 samosas already ready for us. But now we have more people. So what he will do, that whatever house samosas are the private cloud, he will go quickly to the nearby shop and buy some more samosas for the rest of the people. That would be the, what we call it as, in my word, I will say, the public cloud or from the public. So that is the kind of a mix of your private samosas or private cloud and public samosas, public cloud. I hope it is clear. Venkata sir. Yeah, great. Thanks. So let's go to the next point. Very important. This is another thing, because everything else apart from that will depend on this. These are like debit what comes in, credit what goes out on the concept. So here, friends, what happens is infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, and software as services. I'll quickly give you so that you are very clear on that. Infrastructure as a services, friends, when we are talking about this from the perspective of what we call it as any computing resources, which is infrastructure. What is infrastructure? Hardware is infrastructure, right? Storage is infrastructure. We have also infrastructure in networking. Whatever is the typical environment which you require to run your system, that is, we call it as the infrastructure. So I can have infrastructure as a services. If I take you to the example of, this is the example of Azure, and I can show you here the kind of solution and product they have. They also divided it between, here you can think of, this is, they will give you computing, that is infrastructure. Database is an infrastructure. Storage is an infrastructure. Networking is an infrastructure. So these are the kind of examples which are there, which will tell you that, okay, this is what we can actually take as infrastructure as services. The second one comes is platform as a services. Now, friends, platform as a services is another very interesting thing, because see what happens is, if you've seen the, see, you need to understand everything comes from the way we work as a humans, how we work and all things. So if you have tried to get into a train, okay, climb into a train, if you are on the platform, it is very easy to climb a train. But if you are actually not on the platform and the train is somewhere on the outside, or there is no proper platform, to climb the train is itself like climbing a rock or all that kind of thing, rock climbing kind of thing. So platform gives you some basic fundamentals ready. Now, what is that used for? See this one, friends. I'm just giving an example here. They have something called developer tools. Ready-made tools are there, which our developers can use it up. This is what we call it as platform as a services. Okay. So you can see it delivers a computing platform as a services, which can be used as, do that, and you can take care of that. And the third one, which is the most interesting one, friends, is called software as a services. Everything which we are using in cloud, as we saw, we used to have a time when we used to buy Tally as a chartered accountant who are practicing. Now we have QuickBooks. Now QuickBooks is a software as a service, because it is all hosted with them. Everything is managed by them. We just pay for fees for how many accounting we want to keep it out there. So, or it can be Google Drive, it can be anything. So even Zoom today is a software as a services, where I'm actually using it and managing it from a perspective of how all these things are going to work. Now here I want to give you one very interesting example. The example which is there is from a perspective of user, right? Now you can also see this one in a little different perspective, which will give you a better perspective in terms of using it. What is that? Let me tell you. See this slide. If I take infrastructure as services, your organization role will be very high. The cloud vendor will only give you the base stuff, which is nothing but hardware, software, and all things, and that can be also managed out here. So that is what we call it as infrastructure as a services. In a platform as services, the kind of service provider, it is something which we'll be talking about from a perspective of moving to the next area, which is nothing but a cloud vendor is there. He is doing a lot more than what is required, and the rest of the thing is being done with that. And the third one, your organization will do very less in a software as a services, because everything is managed out there. So yeah, Kaustav sir, you can say that in one way, IndiaMart is acting as a PaaS, but they are not a service provider. They are not in cloud computing area. They are into different area. Their model may be something on this area. Okay. So this is what we call is the overview. Now till there, I hope all of us are clear and we understand, what are the key things which we need to take that forward. Let's now talk about the cloud risk. Okay. I wanted to give a break, but I'm not feeling like giving a break, because we have to finish this cloud risk and other things. And then I would like to have 10 minutes of question answers also there. So feel free, guys. If I think you're fine, you can survive, right? So, okay, let's go forward. So this is like, I know some of you will be cursing me right now because I gave a hope on all that thing. So cloud risk is another very interesting area. We need to understand the cloud risk in two different perspectives. When I say two different perspectives, guys, please understand one thing. In IT or in information technology, we have a kind of a saying. For everything, we have two different school of thoughts. There is not one school of thought. There is always two different school of thoughts for everything. Now here also, there are two bodies which are actually giving the most macro perspective on cloud. One is ENISA, which is an European body. One is CSA, Cloud Security Alliance, which is a US body. Now you can see when we talk about cloud risk, both have a very different perspective. You know, Europe is very, very concerned about only one thing and one thing only. Their privacy is very important for them. Data protection, governance, those things are very important for them. Whereas CSA, it talks about more on data breaches, more on data losses. Someone hijacking your account, like you have a cloud account and I get a kind of access to that. It happened, you know, one very interesting thing happened. YouTube is a cloud-based service provider, right? Of video on demand. So there was a boy, 12-year boy in Kerala. Okay, it has come in newspaper also, you can check it out. And he used to play game and has a channel out there. And what has happened is he has given his channel credential to one service provider to make it better. I hope you know they can earn money out of that. So he has given it to a channel service provider who will do it. Now what that guy did is he changed the password and removed him and took over his account because his account has something around 1 million subscriber or anything as such. Yeah. So the point is, in that kind of situation, it became very, very important to understand what are the key things which are there in terms of that. So account hijacking is there. APIs, we call it as application, you know, interfaces or other thing. There are insecure. Many times you will be actually using it up. There is a denial of service attack because it is always accessible on internet. There can be a malicious insider. A bad guy can do some harm. I don't know if you are aware of that, but Amazon Web Services went down for partially for 9 minutes because there was a code which was wrong code was put into that and it compiled that code. Or there can be someone can abuse the cloud services, which is there. We have issues in terms of insufficient due diligence. Someone has not checked it properly. In fact, this is a big area right now. I see a lot of chartered accountant giving services in this area because the due diligence is not done, and that is the kind of thing. And there are some shared technology vulnerability because you know there are weakness in the thing. These are the main points which CSA talks about. Whereas if you see the ENISA point of view, ENISA talks about loss of governance, that the moment you put it on the cloud, who's the owner of that? There is no, there is a very thin line of that thing that, you know, we had a question which I would like to take it now. So there was a very interesting question by Ravi Shankar. He says, you know, reliability and security of storing sensitive client data on cloud storage. So, you know, how do we know that all your data is, you know, secure out there and no one is reading that data? And at least if I can have some approach out there. Now, this is the kind of concept, Ravi sir, which we talk about, loss of governance. When you are doing it on a cloud environment, you are actually having a kind of dependability on the CSP. We call them cloud service provider. And this cloud service provider can do sometimes a lot of harm also. So we have to have a proper way, a proper agreement with it. What he can do, what he cannot do, how does my data is stored, all that things I should know. I have seen one similar case in one of my friend who called me up. He said, my OneDrive, I have given access to only folder to my friend, all my employees, but suddenly everyone has access to everything. It means OneDrive is not working. No, it was not an issue with OneDrive. It was a wrong configuration my friend has done. Now we need to see this kind of things before we can actually take that forward. So there should be a proper governance model. Second one, they say is you are stuck with a service provider, lock-in. Let's say for today, you have 30 of your clients' data on QuickBook. Suddenly QuickBook is going for, let's imagine, bankruptcy. Can you go to some other service provider with the data? That is also called interoperability. It is not there right now. There's no interoperability. You are locked with that guy, and sometimes you can't even leave them even if you want to. It's like a abusive marriage with the service provider. So cloud computing is not wrong. Your service provider is creating the challenge out there. Or there are compliance risks. The data cannot be actually going out of that country or any other issues. There can be malicious insider, they are same, and data protections and other points which comes up. So are you seeing the macro perspective? These are the risks which we talk about, friends. Okay. So Ravi sir, I've answered your question. And then there is some question from Arunji, which was says how the IPR and connectivity and sharing happens in hybrid cloud. Oh, it is a complex process out there, Arunji. It is not very easy. IPR part is also different and connectivity. So you have to be creating a very, very complex thing in terms of how the data can be shared, how well the load balancing will happen and all the thing. And based on that, only we take care of that forward. Okay. Okay, that's one of the reason Malaysia, the hybrid clouds are not being preferred by a lot of large companies. Now, what are the challenges in the cloud in terms of what I discuss? I think the best example I can give is from this perspective, which is telling who owns the data and who has access to the data. Ownership of the data as well as custodianship of the data. You remember these two words, who's the owner and who's the custodian. So there are new risks, there are new controls, and there will be new audit steps also for this. Take this example. We have NSA, which was the cloud service provider, or you can imagine them as a cloud service provider. And they had asked for Booz Allen to give them some services in their data center where they were storing it. And this is the system admin. All of you know this gentleman, Mr. Snowden. Heard about him? No? Yeah, Snowden. And Mr. Snowden was the guy who actually leaked so much of confidential data of NSA. Now, this is what is called as who owns the data. The data is owned by whom? The data is owned by national security agencies, right? Who was the custodian out here? So it was Booz Allen, who were custodian because they're service provider. And actual data was with system admin. He did whatever he wanted to do with that. Okay. So this becomes a very, very important issue. It looks like a very funny thing, but this is a classic case of how your cloud challenges are different than your regular issues. Okay. And when you are actually doing, a cloud environment review or checking it up, there is a issue in the hosted environment. Hosted means, like Venkatraman sir asked, can I have it up? There are a lot of people who will give the hosting, but who is responsible for backing up the data? If there are any incident happen, how do I know that? I have to be very careful about that. There are some service provider who gives it, but it is like a black box. I don't know what is happening out there. So nowadays there is a lot more talks on bringing transparency in their processes, telling us how they are taking care of that and what are the key things. So this is something which we need to understand as the challenges in the cloud. And also one more problem which is there is this concept that people think anything which is complex, you put it in the cloud, now the cloud will take care of that. No. You have to understand that. This is the most important thing a lot of people don't understand. Oh, it is on the cloud, so we can't review it. No. Then you are more risk. There are more, different types of risk. I'm not saying more risk. There are different types of risk which we need to look into. And if we are not seeing that, then there are going to be challenges, guys. Then we will have another issues which will come up in terms of how do we deal with that? What are the key things to be managed? And that are the things which we need to, taking care of that. Okay. So this is one thing which we need to look into. Now, I thought, when I was working on this in terms of the key challenges and other things, these are the dimension of the cloud risk assurance perspective. You see, it's a, 6 thing, and I tried my best to put all my perspective out here, guys. So it may, some of that will sound like very technical, but I've just thought, like, from a completeness perspective, you should be able to understand all these things which are there. So here is the part we call about identity and access management. Who has access to the thing, who can do what in the system. We have to have a proper controls on that. See, you need to understand is every time we know one very important thing in the cloud environment, the risk assurance perspective, the first and foremost is access control, which is nothing but user access provisioning, how much access that person have. If the person leaves the organization, how do I remove his access on this? Super user access, who is having super user access? All that things I need to look into. Okay. Second, financial and vendor management. Okay. I don't know how many of you have read an agreement of or OneDrive or Google Drive? Anyone has read the agreement? No. I would suggest you to read it, please. I would suggest you to read it. You know, there is a big important requirement now where a lot of people are asking for vendor management and reviewing that SLAs and everything. And this is a big services, guys. The whole reason is very simple. A lot of time, if you don't read it, there are a lot of hidden costs which are there. So you don't know, you know, that, oh, these are the hidden costs. Like, for example, you have to have a binding for 3 months minimum. Or let's say, for example, if you are leaving the, you know, the service provider, you may have to pay them some X amount, that kind of thing which are there. They will ask you to manage the environment, will take you 2% or 5%. So there are a lot of hidden costs, and we need to actually look at this all clearly. And imagine this is not for an individual person. If you're doing it for a client, they may go for a very big offering. Like, there are large organizations which are paying something around 1 million plus to Amazon Web Services and all things many times, yeah, per month. And that kind of money is huge. We have to see the dimension from the regulatory perspective also, because there are complexity which are there. There is a European side of the story. There is a US side of the stories. There is no industry standard, very focused one, which is there on that. And lack of visibility on the services which is being provided by that. So someone was asking me, is there a service provider who can actually give us very, very secure things? Yes, there is one which is there in Switzerland, but we don't know if they are actually having other issues or not. Okay, so that is the another point which we need to look into. Then comes data. Data is the fourth point, which is a big area from an assurance perspective as well as from a risk perspective. Is there a data segregation and isolation? When I say segregation and isolation, my point is very simple. I am trying to see it from a perspective of this data which we are talking about. It should not get mixed up with other service provider. And if that other service provider is doing something with his that data, it should not mix up with my data also, right? So from that, I want to have a data segregation. You know, information security, data privacy, those point has to be taken by default. And is there a malicious insider? Are you aware of that? Sometime back, one very interesting case happened. One of the Twitter guy, he actually blocked, or he did some, you know, issue with the Trump Twitter account. Okay, he just closed it up, and then he just left that operation. He was actually resigning at that point of time, and he did it, and it was a lot of hue and cry. And Twitter said, "Oh, one of our guy did it. Sorry for that," and that is kind of thing. Now, if he can actually do it, he can do other issues also. I was just giving an example of Twitter, but imagine there are service provider. I don't like one of the organizations, and I have account for that, and that employee of yours has some kind of political, you know, thought process. He can create trouble for you. And the fifth one is operational. How do we deal with disaster recovery, SLA customization and enforcement? This is the big issue, guys. I think most of the chartered accountant I know who are working in the cloud, they actually work extensively on this area. Why? I'll tell you. SLA customization is nothing but, a lot of people think that whatever is the EULA agreement, you know, end user license agreement on any cloud service provider, that is sacrosanct, which means you can't be changed. No, that is not true. It has been made by whom? By humans, and humans makes error. So there is a requirement to read this example, see the SLA, the service level agreement, how much at what time, what has service has to be provided and all things. And we have to also enforce it up, because many service provider don't enforce it up. So how do we take care of that in terms of enforcement and ensuring it up, that it is all out there? Okay. Similarly, we have point from technology, because technology is evolving daily. There are new things which is coming out. There are proprietary lock-in period which is there. There are some customization which we need to look into. And the most important thing, there is a question by Yogesh. He said, is the change service provider, then how previous provider will transfer data? It can't be. That is what we call as cross-vendor compatibility and integration. It is not happening. So that is something which you have to know. So it all depends on organization to organization and which service provider you're going for it. So you have to ask this kind of question and taking care of it. Somdev had a question, which is how secure is to handle European client data under cloud computing model. Somdev, if you're doing European client data, when I say if it is a PII data, or then GDPR and other things comes into picture, it is more risky. I would say more, you have to take more, reasonable controls has to be put into place to be able to manage it up and take it forward. Okay. So these are the dimensions. I would say the 6 dimensions. I'm telling you, these are not the risk. We'll discuss the risk later. These are the dimension of the risk. It can be on identity and access management. It can be on the data side. It can be on operational perspective. It can be on financial vendor management. It can be on regulatory requirement also, as well as from the technology. So these are the dimensions of risk which we need to look into and have to manage it out. Now, when we try to do that, the advisory services which a lot of chartered accountants are playing role is on first and foremost what we call as a cloud vendor evaluation. As I was telling you, there is a requirement to even evaluate the cloud vendor, because not every cloud vendor has manage on the same time. So basically it becomes very important that are we taking care of that in terms of dealing with that. Second, cloud contract negotiation. As I told you, the whole of these things are not sacrosanct. It is not that, oh, they have told it, I want it to in this manner, so it will be in this manner only. It is not going to work in that way. So we need to be very, very careful in terms of ensuring that this is something which we can actually deal with in terms of the contract and negotiating that. Yeah, cloud implementation advisor, that's a very important thing which I always say. It is not an automation work. You have to think it like a BPR, a business process engineering. When you go into a cloud, lot of our old systems, old processes, old way of doing things will undergo a change. And this becomes very, very important that we just don't do automation, but we do really a digital transformation, friends. Okay. Also, there is a role of providing advisory role in control implementation. See, we are ultimately, as auditors and as accountant, we are always a control person. It can be from IFC perspective. It can be from a perspective of reviewing the environment, and there are also now SOC 3 report which is required, which is like a kind of AICPA standard. Just like we have, I hope we have an SA called 402, SA 402, which is service provider. Now, cloud service provider will also come under SA 402. So if you have a client who have outsourced some of the thing on a cloud environment, processes and all things, which means the controls have also moved to the cloud environment. And in that given situation, we have to take a stand as a financial auditor that I want a service auditor report on the cloud environment. Everything is happening on the cloud. I showed you that, if you remember, I just showed you this small thing. We thought our processes are complex, we move into cloud. But what is actually happening in the cloud? No one is asking that question. So it becomes very important that we see this from a perspective of actually what is happening in the cloud environment. And that's why you should take an independent auditor's report also. And here we have CCM version 4. It was, till some time back, it was CCM version 3. But I'll just show it to you, CCM version 4, and explain to you how, it's a very interesting thing, which you can go through it to get a more expertise on this area. Okay. Before that, there is a question by Yogesh: at what frequency data, you mean to say parsing, right? Not parsing. It's a PAR, parsing you're talking, happen on cloud platform. So Yogesh, it will depend on organization to organization. Everyone has different. Apple Cloud has a different requirement. Google has their own thing. So it depends from organization to organization. Okay. So guys, I'm seeing the question in the Q&A, so that is easy for me to know there are questions which are there. Feel free, any questions which are there, we can actually answer it. Okay. So let me show you what I'm talking about, CCM version. So all of you have seen a risk control matrix, guys, right? Okay. So there is a organization called CSA. Okay. It is called Cloud Security Alliance. Now they came with the cloud control matrix. What is this cloud control matrix? They said any cloud, any environment, IaaS, PaaS, all of the things which are there, all of this cloud environment are having some risk and some control. So I told you one thing, you remember that one, that you should know this concept of IS, PAS, and stress. That's one thing. From an architect perspective on physical servers, network, compute, storage, application data. And from organization review perspective, is it impacting cybersecurity, internal architect team, software development, operation, legacy, legal privacy, GRC team, supply chain management, all these areas which are there. Now in this, they have put all the controls and whether it is impacting. So if it is true, it means it is impacting this area physical, network, let's say conduct independent audit and assurance assessment for relevant standard and control at least annually. So it's a very interesting thing. Every year you need to do this. All the controls under, you can see it, it is all under audit and assurance, application and interface security, how it is there. We have on business continuity perspective, what is the risk which are there and what are the controls. Your change management and configuration management, what are the controls we should have. We have cryptography because encryption is very important on the cloud. Your data is always exposed to third party. So anyone can log on and do it. So how do we take care of the cryptography and encryption? Then we have points on data center security, which is nothing but what are the things which the cloud service provider has to do, whether he has done it, not done it, whose responsibility is that? It is the CSP's responsibility. Okay. Shared means it is done for both the service, cloud service provider, cloud service provider, and the other people. So similarly, we have other points, guys, which is on data security and privacy lifecycle. Is it impact important or not? It's a very comprehensive document, friends. I can just share the link with you. You can go download it from there. From governance, risk and compliance, GRC perspective, which is the governance issue. From human resource perspective, what are the things we need to look into? From identity and access management, what are the things which we need to do? It's a very comprehensive document. As I told you, also interoperability, has it been done or not? See, when you are going to give a service, your inputs to the client, we want to see it from what we call it as 360-degree feedback perspective, that okay, everything what we can think of has been considered or not considered out here, and that becomes a critical point in terms of dealing with that. Then we have also in this another point which is on infrastructure and virtualization, which is one of the part of that. Logging and monitoring is being done, how it has been taken care of that. Then we have security incident management, e-discovery. This is cloud forensic is now, as Chitale sir was talking about forensic engagement, digital forensic, there is a very important part on what we call it as your cloud forensic, because today you may have any data on Apple environment. Maybe you are keeping some photos and all things. Can this be taken? Can it be taken as an evidence? So we need to see all this point very, very clearly in terms of the management of this and how it becomes important out there. Okay. So CCM versions are very, very comprehensive. Instead of, you can see we have close to around, we have around 217 controls. Totally, actually it was 215 earlier, but 2 more has been added. So it's a very interesting thing. You have to go through it. I don't have paucity of time because I may have another 10 minutes, but the point which I'm trying to say is, if you can go through it, you will get a kind of complete picture on why this this document becomes so important and why we should be paying attention in terms of going through it and taking it forward. Okay. So this is what the role is. I already discussed about the cloud control metrics, which I was there. And here I want to talk about some of the control domain. I just go into one by one quickly, the control domain. These are the control domains, friends, we can actually work on. So application and interface security, I talked to you about that. I talked about audit and assurance and compliance. There are controls under that. From a business continuity management, because it's very important, if you're in a cloud environment, we have to be very, very clear in terms of the resiliency that it should not go down. And also, if there is one data center, one hosting is there, how can I manage it in other places? I need to look into change control. We all know change management is very important, because if anyone goes and do any changes to that without permission, then there is going to be a lot of challenges. So we need to see that. The whole information life cycle, data center security, I talked about encryption and key management. The governance and risk management, how they're taking care of that. Human resource part. Okay. So human resource is more about background checks, making sure the right people are doing it. You remember there was something, a term called, a kind of insider, malicious insider, a guy with a malicious intention, but is within the organization. So what are the checks and balances we can put for that? Okay. We have identity and access management. I talked about that. Virtualization security. Interoperability is very, very important, which is nothing but making sure. There was a question with someone who said, I have on, let's say, QuickBooks, how can I take it otherwise? Presently, you can't take it because they don't subscribe to a same set of interoperability standards. So right now, everyone has their own, kitchen. Everyone makes it in a different way. So we have to bring some standardization out there for the industry to take it forward. Mobile security, because cloud services are used in more on mobile devices. So there are something called as, I don't know how many of you heard about this term called zero trust. Anyone of you heard this term called zero trust? No? Read about that. It's a very important thing. Zero trust is like you don't trust anyone. You verify everyone who's coming into your IT environment. And in cloud, zero trust is used extensively because that's the kind of thing we always verify for everyone. You trust but verify. You just don't take anyone as a trusted device which can do whatever it has to work on that. Then we have security incident, how we deal with any incident which happened. Cloud forensic, I talked about that. Supply chain management, making more transparency and accountability in terms of doing it, and threat and vulnerability management. So these are basically the points which we need to look into out here. Okay. Then the last part of my discussion, which I want to take is professional services assurance, which are the, I would say 5 areas which we are focusing on. How do we take care of that? Those areas from a cloud perspective. Okay. We have some questions in between. There is one from, how do we deal with disaster data centers? So Narayan sir, what happens is, you saw that thing when I was going in Azure. They have an option like I can have my data always stored in 2 data centers, one in India, one in Europe, or one in US, whatever I want it to be. So accordingly, I can actually take care of that. Okay. Somdev has a question. Can you please guide on SOC 1, SOC 2 under IAS, PAS and all things, how to do TOD and OKTO reporting purpose with example? It will depend. SOC will be a very different example to discuss. I would take it otherwise, Somdev. Okay. So coming back to professional service assurance, what we are talking about, here we go. This is the thing, I would say 5 key area. This is the last section which I want to discuss with you. I'm sorry, I think I have another 10 minutes, so I'll just go quick on this. And I want to take some questions from you. I want to take your points out there because you may have a lot of doubts. And let me tell you guys, friends, if you have doubt, it's a good thing. Otherwise, you are an alien, because why I'm telling you that, when first time I got into the cloud computing areas and reviewing it up, I was very confused because first, the terminologies are different. Second, the way this environment works are different. Third, there are a lot of new concepts which are being used in cloud. So because of this 3 reasons, we would be getting a cloud, but let's say try to understand from a right perspective. Because if you see the flow starting from IAS, PAS and all things, then coming to the cloud control metrics and then going to the audit objective, you will see the same thing out there. If you remember, identity and access management was one of the key item out there from perspective of cloud risk. It was also the #1 item in cloud control metrics. And it is also the very important item in audit objective out here. So how does it become? So because I want to verify, this is just an example, the key area which you focus on, if you have to review this, are, physical security, where it is being done, how the hosting is being done of your cloud environment, authentication process, what are your force, having, how the access for the transferred employees are modified in a timely manner or not. All the things we need to look into. Similarly, from a data protection perspective, our objective is always that whether there are sufficiency of policy, procedure, and practices in terms of managing your cloud service provider. The cloud service provider has been doing this or not, they can actually take care of it. Okay. So this is one of the areas where you can actually, start with that, checking all the sensitivity of data, the potential risk. There should not be the vendor is managing all the commingling of data is not happening. This is the kind of questions which we focus on. Then comes, friends, technology risk. I told you this one also. Technology risks are always there because there may be a unique thing. All the environment is virtual. It's not a real environment. You are accessing a virtual machine. You are working on that. So in that given situation, we need to be very clear about the risks which are there. There are different types of risks, whether you're monitoring it properly or not. We have enough segregation of duties or not from a technology perspective, business perspective, and who is coming there, what he's doing. All the logs has to be reviewed, because what we always see is in any of the technology environment, hundreds of logs are generated ready, but no one reviews the log. Everyone just keep the log out there, but no one reviews it up. So having the logs is not a control. Someone reviewing the log is the control. Then comes from the operation perspective. In operation perspective, the key audit objective is that incident management, any kind of incident, problem management, what they're doing it, change management, access management, all these things with context to the cloud services, how it has been done. Because I remember the key issues in this cloud environment is with relation to this. Okay, so which has to be worked out and taken care of, managing it in a right way, and that's something which will be helpful. Regulatory, on the regulatory side, there are laws which are there. Some of the sites have their own things. You can see in Microsoft, they have on Office 365, which is a SaaS based, hours notice will typically delivered by email by one or more administrator to the listed person. So do you want to have important legal notice served to your system administrator? Now, this basically means that if there is a breach which happened, who would be given it up? There are breach happens. We recently have the breaches dominoes. If you're on the IT environment, this kind of things are going to happen. This is not something new. Okay. And that becomes important out there. So we should be aware of that. Any intrusion detection, there are HIPAA Act, we have GDPR, all these acts are there, which requires a lot of control. So it's not an easy task, guys. It would be a lot more challenging, I would say, in cloud environment. So I first talked about the good part of the cloud. That was like, okay, this is good, but these are the challenges which are still there. But now, which technology is there without challenges? Every technology has the thing, but we have to make sure that we can get a reasonable assurance in terms of how we are dealing with that. What are the key things which are working? What are the way where we can take care of this in a proper manner? Okay. This is a sample. I just thought of some of the document which we use, but when you're doing an assurance on cloud service provider, we basically start with prep, and we spend more time on prep and field findings review than on the field work. The field work documentation is done very fast because it's just you have to do a single testing and everything works out. So we have to develop a kind of audit plan, all the objective based on CCM and all thing, gather all the documentation evidences which are there, and then make sure everything is being put out there in the right perspective. Final thing, friends, these are the common audit findings you will find when you are working on this. Password settings does not comply with the organization user policy. It happens because what happens is the service provider who's there, he has own policies which are there. As an organization, you may have a different policy. So it is basically mean in your organization there are two password policies are working. So this becomes a big challenge, and we have to look into that. Second, the port. What is port? I'll just give you a very simple. Remember, if you are using Tally server, you have set up Tally server. It says which port to use. You will define 9090 or 9000. There are different ports. So there are like entry point into your systems and all things. Some ports has to be only configured for the cloud service provider. And if it is not properly configured, other people can also come. So we need to see that. Third, there may not be proper policy and procedure for handling of any security and privacy incident. That is also there. Some terminated users, they have been removed from the organization. They have left the organization, but their access is still there. That can be misused by any other person or maybe him only. And because it's a cloud environment, he don't have to be in office. He can access it from anywhere, right? Also the SOC report, which is service organization control, report are not reviewed. What can be the report issue can happen? Or sensitive data which is there is not encrypted properly by the service provider and all thing. And the last but not least, which is happens in every organization which I've seen, is shared account to administer the cloud. And this is very dangerous, guys. They will have one user ID password which is used by multiple administrators. There's something like you go to any CA office, everyone's password is what? Password. Earlier it used to happen. Now I know it's much better. But that is the kind of thing which we have out here. Okay. So friends, these are some of the common audit findings you will find. So just to summarize, cloud environments, what we talk about, how we deal with that, it's very, it's a future right now. It's going to be there for a very, very long time. That is for sure. But there are things which we have to take with a pinch of salt. With every good technologies, there are challenges also which come. And as we see, we have talked about what are the key issues. Digital transformation is going to be there. It is going to happen whether we like it or not. And we also saw that that report which I given you, future of the job, it is coming from World Economic Forum. And they are saying cloud computing is on the top technology, which is, by 2025 will be adapted to the max out there. Now we need to know the risk which is there, the issues which are there, the challenges which are there. We need to know what are the way we can handle these challenges. So CCM is the way. We can see what are the roles which chartered accountant can play in this overall thing and give their best out of that. And most importantly, you have to see what we call it as expect the unexpected in a environment like this. It's going to be very unexpected things which will come as the areas of things. So this is what we need to understand about cloud computing and the key issues which are there. Okay. So there are a few questions. Let me try to take one by one. So Ankit has asked a question: how can a recently CA qualified CA practice make a career? You can. There are a lot of ways, but be ready to work a lot. You would have to have a very steep learning curve. So if you're ready for a steep learning curve, I am sure there is a lot of way. You can start with interning with a lot of people who are there, who are working in these areas. Work with them, understand that, and then you can take it up. Okay. Swati has a question: is there a comparable chart on Zero and QuickBooks? Is there on the net? A lot of things, or you can ask the QuickBook guys; they will make you and give it to you. Okay. Okay. Somdev has a question. There's a Microsoft Azure work is assigned by the client. Now, who will handle DRP? Also mentioned in MSA that you are the auditor of to do annual DR testing and submit report to the client. How to approach in such case MSA sharing DR testing reporting to the client annually? Okay, this is a very good question. This is the thing which I told you. You have to just go through the CCM version thing. Usually this is a shared responsibility. It is not your responsibility only or there. It should be a shared responsibility, but we have to get a call out with the client. Talk to them that the MSA says this, we are ready to take it up that, but this is how we would require access to that. And it was also very important that these responsibilities are carved out now at the beginning of the thing only, because later there can be a challenges. And also Azure has a lot more challenges in terms of setting up DRPs and other, resiliency environment compared to AWS. So I would suggest the approach would be, if you are doing it, my suggestion would be you ask them that DRP handling will be their responsibility, auditing that will be your responsibility, and you can take care of that. Or you can also take it up that, okay, the environment has given to us and we are the whole and soul, the auditor of the, not auditor, the custodian of the environment. Accordingly, also you can take a call, but depend on the MSA. We can actually take it offline. If you have anything, you can, I'll share my contact detail. You can ask me that. Then we have Ravi asking a question in this, okay, in this data stored in this popular cloud service is encrypted or they can be stolen Excel file read by. Okay, good question, Ravi sir. Are you taking the free version or the paid version? I don't know about the free version. Okay, that is for sure. Free versions, anything can happen. Okay, when I say anything can happen, my point which is there is in free version, what happens is the most interesting thing which happens in free version. I'll explain it to you. Many other time they will not be very serious about what they are giving you in the free version. So usually what will happen is you will think, okay, everything is encrypted. It may not be encrypted also. So my suggestion would be for you to take the free paid version and see for that whether they are giving you the encryption for this or not. If they are not giving it to you, then there are challenges. That's something which we should look into that, because that is going to be a big issue in terms of taking care of that. Okay. Okay, password recovery procedure on cloud, different. Okay, depending on the thing. Please share your encryption tools available. Encryption tool, Naren sir, it is actually given by the service provider. They will be using any of the algorithm. It can be RSA. There are hundreds of algorithms which are there. It will be provided by them. So there's a difference between hosting of software of my organization on organization cloud and hosting merchant. Okay, Chandrasekhar sir, that's a very good question. See, if you are hosting in your organization cloud, it depends. It may be possible that Azure is costlier, but they have like, this is like what we call it as, have you heard about this saying that "Ghar ki murgi dal barabar"? There's a Hindi saying, which basically means your in-house cloud is not having that kind of SLA. If it is down for one day, they will say, "Ha, it is down." That's all. But outside service provider will have a better thing. But it also depends whether you are having a mission critical application. If it is a mission critical application, in that case, you need to be very careful and basically take that up in detail. Okay, so that would be my submission on that. Okay, great. So I answered all the questions. Any other question? Okay, so there's okay. What is the minimum bandwidth, sir? Today you there is a geo buys there, so we have our Mukesh Bhai giving us a good bandwidth. I suggest nowadays internet bandwidth is pretty good. If you take a connection with geo or anything as a 700 rupees per month and all thing, that is good enough. 40 Mbps is amazing for a big office to work it up. Free version. Okay, there are CS specific app package and cloud. There are a lot more are there right now. You can change it up. I don't want to say anything of that per se. Okay, no, sir. Sachin, it's not a technical subject. I'll tell you, this is our thought process. But thanks for your comment. See, what happens is, I don't know if you know, SOC reviews are done by CPAs. If Somdev was asking about SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 report, you can read about them. They are all done by CPAs. So if it was so technical, they would have not been doing it. We are just restricting ourselves that, okay, this is technical. It's not technical at all. It's all process and everything, which is, we need to work it out. Okay. Venkatraman said, very tough to get the data back from, service provider, cloud service provider, if you're out. So Chandrasekhar sir has a question. Suppose we ask Azure to host the solution on behalf of our client. Sir, it depends. Like as I told you, you can always go to the site and do what we call it the cost calculator. And right now, if you're doing it, 12 months, it's free. So I would say it's very, very cheap, sir. Yeah, very much. Well, I would say, okay, if you are trying to do it for your office, Chandrasekhar sir, I would say don't even go for 50. I think, we actually are using CRM, which is on cloud. We are using our HRM, which is on cloud and all things. On average, we pay per year around 10,000 rupees per employee to have that whole thing on the cloud. So it's a kind of model which you can work very well after. Okay, great. Thank you. I think any other questions, feel free. I hope I answered around, okay, 19 questions. So good. Thanks. Good questions are there. Thank you for the questions there. It was very good. Mayank sir, there is no confidential of document because every document of your which you are putting on OneDrive and cloud Google Drive is being read by Google. You can read the agreement, you'll understand it better, sir. There is nothing called free lunches, Mayank sir. Don't go for free stuff. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you very much, friends. Thanks a lot. It was very interesting session. A lot of good questions. I was not expecting so many questions. So I'm just happy about that. And thanks to Pune chapter for the opportunity. It was really great interacting with all of you. Over back to you, sir.
Thank you, Anand sir. Actually, it was really good to go through the presentations and hear you for last almost one and a half hour. Because frankly speaking, even for me, cloud computing was like something doing on internet. Personally, I never knew about the 4 types of cloud storages that you spoke about, like public cloud, private cloud, hybrid, and all those things. And then again, the good thing of having a cloud computing, but at the same point of time, highlighting what are the risks that are associated, so that going ahead, while we are thinking of moving on cloud, at least we are aware of those areas where we should be looking into. So thanks a lot. And it was indeed a pleasure hearing you, sir. Friends, our speaker for the second session is also ready and he has joined. I think before we move on to the second technical session, Saurabh sir, with your permission, I would like to take a small break of 5 minutes so that participants can just take a small break and again come back. I would request everyone to just be back in 5 minutes because the speaker is ready and all of us are ready over here. And we will start immediately in 5 minutes. And once again, thanks a lot, Anand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
For
sir.
sparing your time and addressing all of us. Thank you. So friends, we'll be back in just 5 minutes.
सचिन सर.
Yes, madam.
जंगीत सरांचं झालं का सेशन?
हो त्यांचं झालंय. एक 5 मिनिटं ब्रेक घेतलाय आणि
ओके
विल स्टार्ट इमिडिएटली.
ओके चालेल.
जस्ट एक 2 मिनिटात चालू करूयात आपण.
हो चालेल.
Abhishek sir, should we start? Saurabh sir, are you there?
Yes, sir, we can start. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So welcome friends, welcome back for this second technical session on the 3 days virtual national conference on information technology. I welcome speaker for our second technical session, CA Saurabh Goenka sir. and also Sri Abhishek Zavre, the chairman of IT subcommittee of Pune ICAI and managing committee member of Pune ICAI. Welcome, sir. I would give you a brief introduction of our speaker for this second technical session, CA Saurabh Goenka, a chartered accountant and a digital transformation professional with more than a decade's experience in process automation, process improvement, digital transformation, and strategy leadership, who is seen as an influencer in the finance transformation space. Having worked on multiple process transformation initiatives for large organizations, he helps organizations in scaling and democratizing digital transformation, and also shares this knowledge across multiple conferences and industry events on digital transformation. Using his proprietary ROQS framework and more than 20,000 man-hours of strategy and digital transformation consulting, Saurabh is seen as a go-to industry expert for digital transformation solution. Co-founded by him, MindMap Digital, which recently was awarded amongst the top 10 RPA solution providers in India, is a bridge between ideas and solutions for all who carry the vision of adopting digital and scaling processes to be truly ready for a global digital economy. Saurabh has also created a very large digital skilling academy in the form of MindMap Learning and is working on a edtech platform to give access to world-class, affordable, and job-oriented digital skilling ecosystem to at least 1 million users by the year 2022. He is also working on incubating an accounting and compliance management SaaS-based product for SMBs and MSMEs to hyper-automate back-office process. So with this, Saurabh, sir, I hand over the session to you, and I request you to take charge of this session. Over to you, Saurabh, sir.
Thank you so much, Sachin sir, for that wonderful and long introduction, and my hearty regards to Chairman sir as well and the entire branch. And first of all, congratulations for the 73rd CA week for all of us. And I'm very happy to see a very, very good turnout here. So let me just go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let me know, please, if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Great. Excellent. Perfect, guys. So thank you so much. What I will do now is just heading straight into the session. Let me just take a couple of minutes to talk about the agenda for today's session and what is it that we're going to do. So first, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what is artificial intelligence and how does it work, and why should we as chartered accountants be bothered by it. So the entire conversation today will be extremely contextualized to the CA fraternity, to the auditing and the assurance and the accounting landscape. And my whole intention from here, guys, is that you should be able to take something back and start implementing some of these things as part of your day-to-day profession, right? Then we'll talk about the origins of artificial intelligence. Where did it actually start and where are we headed? And then, there are so many different jargons which we keep working with, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks. What do all these things really mean, right? So I will try to give you a very layman's understanding of what all of these things differently mean and which one of these are important for us. And then I'm going to talk about, what are the different application areas of AI and how are they impacting audit, with some use cases of, what are companies thinking right now? Where is the whole industry headed? What are the different ways in which audit can be impacted by some of these technologies? And then I'll give you some use cases and case studies, and then we'll do a little bit more conversation on the future for our profession and where is it headed, right? And guys, throughout this entire session, I want us to be extremely interactive. Now, while you do not have the access to unmute yourself and speak, but I would request you to constantly please send me your questions in the Q&As. The Q&As are not reserved for the end. You can keep submitting your questions and answers as you move along, because the intention of this session today, which is organized by the Pune branch, is for you to take away as much information with you as possible. And whatever questions you have, even if it is not related to the topic, but it is something to do with the whole applying any digital technologies, please use this as a forum to ask all of those questions, and I'll be very happy to answer them on the go. Every 10 to 15 minutes, I will keep checking the chat window and the Q&A box, where if you have any questions, you can put them there. That being said, there are some areas where I will also ask you questions, and then I will want you to respond back. And whenever we do that, remember, there is no right answer or wrong answer. It is just all based on what your understanding of the whole subject is. And the subject, of course, is very, very deep, right? So that being said, let us just head straight right into it. I always begin these sessions with a very bold statement which says the world is changing and intelligence is leading that change right now. The world has always changed. Can you imagine a time when the world has not changed? It's not possible. Right from the Stone Age to the first time an automobile was discovered, to the first printing press, to the invention of electricity, to the invention of the first computer, the first mobile phone, every single one of these inventions has radically transformed the way we basically live our lives, right? But the one thing which is really different now is that the pace at which this change is taking place, that pace is phenomenal, and it is out of control. There is a lot of change which is happening very, very quickly. And for some of it, we are taken aback and overwhelmed with the nature of these change. And the reason I'm saying this is because it is important for us to anticipate some of these changes if we are to adapt and adopt to some of these, right? So moving on, very quick question for you, and I'm hoping most of you will know the answer to this. How many of you know who this lady here on the screen is? And you can use the chat box to put in your answers. I just want to have a quick poll if anybody knows who this lady is. Okay, so I got one response from Venkat, robot, Sophia, she's a robot. Great. So I think, today, most of the people who are there on this forum, we know that who this person is. And yeah, great. Guys, thank you so much for all of these responses. And you're absolutely right? There might be some of us, and my estimate is about close to 50% of us, at least, who are present here today might not even know who Sophia is. So let me just go ahead and play a quick small video and take a look at this video, and then we'll continue.
Okay, Sophia, I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I am Sophia. I feel as if I know you.
I'm one of your creators.
You created me.
Well, many of us work together to create you. And yes, you do kind of know me.
I can't clearly remember.
Because the last time we met, you were an earlier version of yourself. Some of those memories still exist, but your mind is different now.
Different how?
Better, faster, smarter.
If my mind is different, then am I still Sophia? Or am I Sophia again?
That's a good question.
But you don't have a good answer.
Either way, you're Sophia now. So welcome to the world, Sophia.
Hello, world.
We have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before, and I should say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would to thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to show this to you is for a very, very simple question. Did you anticipate that a robot could one day be given the citizenship of an advanced economy like Saudi Arabia? And that is something which is, it's something to ponder about, because this is something which sometimes these are some of these things which we've been seeing in all these science fiction movies, and somehow it becomes a reality. Now, Sophia is an example of artificial intelligence, right? If somebody was to tell you that, can you please give me an example of artificial intelligence? This is artificial intelligence personified. And today in our session, we are going to break down in terms of how does Sophia really work? What are the components that goes behind Sophia in terms of, the way she basically works? And okay, so I have some questions. So somebody said, Sophia, all right, so this is answered, all this is fine. Okay, so we have a question from Amit. Amit, I will take your question in some time. I've noted your question now. Great. All right, so that's the whole idea, that if we could not anticipate this, can we not think of scenarios where if you have such an advanced ecosystem of technology, where you have a robot-like entity, you can talk to that person. Sophia, right now has had so many Twitter wars with Elon Musk, and she's learning new languages, she's creating new languages, and she's full on. And she is just an example. There are so many more immense technological advancements which are happening in this space. So my question to you is, what do you think stops the world of artificial intelligence from maybe creating automated accounting tools or automated auditing tools? Or for example, what if you had a bot like Sophia? You could just tell the bot that, hey, Sophia, can you please, perform the audit for me and give me the results? And all of those things, dear members, is something which is very, very close to reality today. In fact, there are some solutions already built like that. They're not very strong and very stable, but we are still slowly reaching that space as well. Okay, so Sophia is an example which was some time back. It's not very recent. I think Sophia itself is easily 7 to 8 years old now, if not more. But since then, remember I said that the pace of technological advancement is massive. So we have come a really, really far way. When AI was first being conceptualized, it was a very academic thing. And I will go to the AI history of AI in some time, and I'll tell you how it was an academic thing. But of late, the whole initiative of any technology is to make it compatible with business and the lives of people. And we have become extremely advanced in our current AI technologies. And there are lots of business applications, right? Now, to help you understand what those business applications are, let me actually go ahead and share another video with you. You might not have seen this one. This is a company called Soul Machines. And what they do is that they build very real human looking like software agents, right? So which interact with customers. So, think of the scenarios where you always used to call up a call center and to get something resolved. But what if that gets replaced with you doing a video call to a software agent, which is an AI-based agent who can understand you and your emotions and help you with the whole process, right? So let me show this video to you and you'll get an understanding of what I'm talking about.
What makes us different from other AI companies is we're approaching artificial intelligence from a very different way.
What happens if you truly wanted to build a character which could animate itself? The only way to do that is to give it a brain.
You've always imagined computers being more human.
Now we are. The next employee you recruit could be digital.
Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Fatima.
I'm Cash.
I'm Ella. It's lovely to see you.
We're partnering with Soul Machines, creating incredibly lifelike, emotionally responsive digital humans with personality and character that allow machines to talk to us literally face to face.
Have you already downloaded your product?
Yes, I have.
You are already one step ahead.
And the whole purpose is really to investigate, to explore the role that digital humans can play in improving the customer experience.
It was like talking to a real person.
What's my customer number, Jamie?
You can find your customer number on the back of your ANZ debit or credit card.
The more that we can make computers like humans so that we intuitively know how to interact with them, the more you can interact cooperatively with it.
You look anxious, but rest assured your health is my primary concern.
The opportunity with digital health professionals like what we're doing with Soul Machines is to be able to deliver more care to more patients for less cost.
It enables us to really make some significant differences in the lives of people.
Welcome to Mercedes-Benz. I'm here to help you with your new car.
It is a very compelling method to deliver new information.
We're shaping the future through digital learning.
I, for one, have a lot of hope in this technology as a means to deliver cost-effective, rich experiences into the future.
The future is round the corner.
Let us take you there.
All right, guys. So, that's an example of where, the business application of some of this is headed right now. Right. Let me just close this window. Okay. All right. Great. Let me see if you guys have any questions. Okay. Not right now. And any comments? Yeah. So Sunil says Alexa, Siri are example of AI. Yes, Sunil, they are an example of AI. And AI is actually much more than that. And I'll dig a little bit deep into it. So, but the answer is this, right? If this is what it has become today, nothing stops you from creating, or nothing stops us humans from creating very, very smart robo advisors who can come in as a first line of defense for any questions, right? So I don't really foresee that it will completely replace advisory functions and niche domain knowledge, like the kind of knowledge which we chartered accountants have, but it will definitely become a first line of defense for anything, right? So it can do most of the work for you, just like you saw there. And imagine the impact which this is going to have on some really repetitive and manual roles like, data entry roles or simple customer service roles. And, there are so many call centers and all of those things can get significantly disrupted. So that is where we are headed right now. Okay, so what is the history of artificial intelligence? It really started with science fiction somewhere in the 1930s, where you had lots of these science fiction movies and novels and concepts coming out. But the first real implementation was done by a gentleman called Alan Turing, who devised this test called the Turing's test, and it was actually also, used to win a very, very significant war. And there's this movie called The Imitation Game, which you should definitely watch, which gives you an understanding of how this whole thing was done. And that was the first artificial intelligence which was created. The intention of that AI was to decrypt the German secret codes which were sent using a machine called Enigma, right? And it's a very fascinating movie. You should see it. And from that point onwards, there was a lot of research which started happening at an academic level. And you had the MIT, you had several academic institutions which started doing more and more research work into this. But in terms of the business applications, it's very recent, and somewhere in about 2000 is when, and I think many of us might have heard of this. This is when IBM created a computer called the Deep Blue, which was able to defeat Garry Kasparov, who was the grandmaster of chess at that point of time. And it was assumed that chess is something where a computer can never really defeat a grandmaster, but that happened. And since then, since 2000, there has been so much more influx of multiple different areas of AI, and that primarily has been because the availability of computing power has gone up significantly. Earlier, there were these large supercomputers where you need these supercomputers to do anything. But today, even your mobile phone has got more power and more computing power than anything else. So you, with yourself, if you're using a mobile phone, if you're using a computer, you actually have most of the infrastructure which is needed to power even artificial intelligence. Then, of course, there's the public cloud available where most of the AI-based elements are pre-modified and loaded there, right? So that's a brief history of what AI was and how did it come. And, for those of you who like these movies, who are movie buffs, these are some examples of some of these AI-based, science fiction movies. And weirdly, some of these are becoming the reality today, right? So, but I don't really believe in the scenario where AI will take over the world. There are some very, very credible people who have that fear and who are voicing it out, but we are very, very far away from any technological advancement which can go that route. But as you head into the weekend, if there are some movies you want to watch, these may be some of the good picks, right? Great. So how has AI really evolved over the years, right? Now, before the 1960s, when it was very, very naive, what AI was supposed to do, or rather what technology always did, at best, it could repeat what you're doing, right? So if you tell the computer program that, okay, can you please perform a set of these calculations? That's all it could do. Now, between 1960 to 2010, which is a fairly long period of about 50 years, now here the first origins of machine learning came in place, right? What machine learning does, initially at that point of time, what it used to do is that it learned to imitate you. So for example, if you are sitting and performing certain transactions, let's say that, you know, you are opening up a picture file and then you are specifying whether the picture is the picture of if it's an image of a cat or if it's an image of a dog. It starts learning from your choices and it just imitates what you're doing. So, you know, that was the era where if some of us have used Excel-based macros in the past, that's when they basically originated, and, you know, most of the work happened in the imitation space. Between 2010 to 2018, computer algorithms truly started to learn. So it started to, you know, learn your preferences, your habits, and we got to this whole technology called deep learning. And I'm going to get into a lot of details later of what is the meaning of machine learning, deep learning, and all of that. But where we are right now today is where it is learning to learn. So you don't really have to tell the computer algorithm how to learn something. It can just observe you, and based on that, it is continuously refining what procedures should it adapt to learn and create an algorithm. And then, you know, 2022 onwards is when it is going to just take everything by storm. Even today, if you see almost all companies, whether or not they have any artificial intelligence in their products, but they like to say, you know, this is AI powered, that is AI powered, this is, you know, AI this, AI that, and all those things. So, but yes, that is going to be very much the truth in some point of time. So that's what the evolution of AI has been. And one of the things which has happened as part of this whole initiative and this whole evolution of artificial intelligence is that technology has become extremely accessible. And that is a very, very big game changer for all of us. Now, for example, if all of us used to remember the times when, you know, maybe about some 25 to 10 to 12 years back, there was this whole boom where everybody wanted to install these ERP systems and move to these ERP systems, right? And everybody wanted to be an ERP functional consultant and used to go and pay lakhs of rupees to learn SAP and all those things. And if you remember that time, implementing technologies like that used to be so tricky and difficult because you have to first get servers, migrate your data, configure everything, train users. It's a big journey of 2 to 3 years and very, very long. Now, with the emergence of cloud computing, what has happened is that, number one, all the server has gone away. You don't need to get your physical servers yourself, right? You can use some of these public cloud players like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and some of these guys. And they build all the services at their end. And what you do is that you can just utilize some of them, right? Now, I'm going to show you a video right now of a very, very interesting technology, right? Now, as you see this technology, I want you to think of use cases where if this technology was given to you, you know, then how do you think it will change your life as a chartered accountant, as a practicing chartered accountant, or as somebody who's working in the industry, right? Now think about that. So here, you know, of course, I will not ask you who this guy is. I am sure everybody knows who this gentleman is. And as you see this video, just try to visualize and imagine what this could mean for you. If you had access to this technology, how can you use it in accounting, in auditing, in, you know, whatever you do, right? So I'm going to ask you that question. And if you want, you can start, you know, answering that question as you watch this video. So let's go ahead and take a look.
The progress with the assistant. As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. You know, we are working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Businesses actually rely a lot on this, but even in the US, 60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See how may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people when?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we leave here for like after like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Okay, so how many of you believe that this was a real phone call? Imagine if you have access to a piece of technology in your phone and you can instruct it to make phone calls on your behalf, and those phone calls can sound like this. And guys, again, I just want to link this with what I said before I started this video. Technology has become very accessible. Google actually plans to give this on every single Android phone. And imagine what you can do for that. You know, imagine if you have a personal, you anyways have a personal secretary today, if you're able to use your virtual assistants well enough. But what if they can make phone calls for you? And this being a technology, it doesn't necessarily also have the limitation of making one phone call at once. What if they can make 100 phone calls for you simultaneously, right? Imagine the impact this can have on your auditing process. If as part of your auditing, you always need to do third-party confirmations. And we all remember the times when we write these emails to third parties and they never revert back. What if you could pick up an audit assistant and instruct the audit assistant that, can you please go and get third-party confirmation for all of my vendor balances? Again, random sampling goes away. You can get confirmation for every single balance, right? And these are some of the implications I'm talking about, right? I'm getting some comments from everyone, and let's see, what are you guys thinking? So So we have Niranjan who says we can use our human resources efficiently, plan work, prioritize routine versus strategic task for clients. Absolutely right, Niranjan. You've kind of hit the nail on the head. And I want everybody to understand that this is what technology is going to do to all of us. Some people are afraid that, everything will change. The way we have done our jobs will all change. A lot of jobs will go away. Yes, the jobs will go away. But think of it like this. When somebody invented a printing press, a lot of jobs went away for people who were writing papers by hand. Similarly, when somebody invented a steam engine, a lot of jobs went away for people who used to drive bullock carts. But that's because the world is becoming a better place. And that is what is also going to happen here. How many of us as chartered accountants, we've always been frustrated and wondered, Array, I've become a CA, but all I'm doing is copy paste and very manual tasks. Why can't somebody else do it, right? That's one. Second, how many CA firms do I have in here today where the partners feel that after a point of time, I'm not able to scale up my practice. Everything is dependent on me, right? That is the number one problem I hear from everybody. Imagine if you were to implement technology like this, which is so accessible and it can do your work for you. Thanks for sharing that, Niranjan. Ankit says, hard to believe. Ankit, my dear friend, it's still true. Ravi says accessible and excessive too. Yes, that's right. Riti says can help in making reminder calls, client calls, confirmation, etc. Absolutely right, Riti. Absolutely right. And imagine even scenarios like where you're just reconfirming your meetings with everybody. All those things are possible. Roy says, wonder if Google can do the thinking and weigh the responses to make a decision in our favor. Good. So Roy, there is something called sentiment analytics. You should go and research on this whole thing called sentiment analytics. What sentiment analytics does is that, suppose you're, for example, I'm talking to you right now. My voice has a certain texture and a certain tone. I'm speaking in a certain way. If you would run my voice through a sentiment analytics engine, it can tell you if I am happy, if I am sad, if I am excited, if I am nervous, if I am drained, if I am, trying to deceive you. It can do all of those things. Now, suppose you want to run a customer survey for launching a new product and you're looking for prospective buyers. Your application makes the calls to about 1,000 different people and they answer those calls. And while the calls are being answered, you're running these sentiment analytics to get the ideas from people, right? And what you're saying is absolutely right. You can use that data to do the thinking here. Thinking is nothing but the sentiment analytics, and you can weigh the responses to make a decision. Swati says no receptionist is needed and we can use ourselves better. Absolutely right, Swati. In fact, this has been there for quite some time. Very, very old implications of the IVR engines, right? When you call a call center, it tells you press 1 to do this, press 2 to do this, so on and so forth. If you have seen recently, I called up Kotak Bank after a long time. And when I did, I don't remember if it was Kotak or HDFC, but one of these guys. And when I called them, they were like, please tell us what you need help with. They didn't say press button 1 to do this, press 2 to do that. And it's very frustrating to do that, right? And then I said, I need help with my credit card. It automatically ran an engine to understand I wanted to do something with credit card and move into the credit card department, right? If you have a Kotak account, I think you can try this. And not just Kotak, I think a lot of people have implemented this now, right? Now, this is the same technology, guys, which is being used by Sophia. This is called natural language processing. So when somebody is saying something, it's an example of an AI-based engine. You listen to that as a computer algorithm, you break it down into text, you understand the meaning of that text, and you match it with a database to go to the next screen and things like that, right? So absolutely, Swati, you can do all of that. Okay. Jijil says, thanks to the technology enhancement, the same technology is accessible to fraudsters as well. It becomes a major concern. It's a big opportunity for our community to provide advice on security and strategy implementation. So, Jijil, you have picked up a very, very important sector, and information security and compliance advisory is going to be a huge, huge area I foresee it to be a huge area for all the chartered accountants, because we come from the compliance background. We come from a background where we've helped people in doing this. And you're absolutely right. The number of scams have gone up and the frauds have gone up, and these phishing attacks, right? I'm sure you know about these phishing attacks and several malware attacks. People are using RPA tools and automation tools to automate all of those things. That's why you will see today almost every website has a CAPTCHA, because CAPTCHA is something which the automation tools can still not go ahead. And it could be one of your advisory to your customers that please, if you have a secure application, have a secure CAPTCHA in place for that. I completely agree, Jill. That's a very good point. It's a big area of improvement. Venkat says all the mundane activities can be taken over by the robot. Absolutely right. Oh, wow. Kishore, you've already given the sentiment analytics API for call centers. Okay, so there are many available. Seema asks, can AI do audit? Seema ji, absolutely. There are a couple of tools which are already there in the market, which can do most of the audit for you. So what it does is that it connects with your database, and it could be your Tally export or your SAP export or Oracle export, one of these things. And based on the connect with some of these things, it does the ledger scrutiny in an automated way, right? And it can give you results saying that, okay, these are my high risk transactions, medium risk transaction, low risk transactions. So it can work in a way where it will do most of the work for you and it will flag out only exceptions for you. Now, this I'm talking about when you actually do a periodic audit. The way the industry will actually move is you will have some of these systems co-integrated with the core ERP systems of your audit tools, of your various ERPs. So it will automatically keep on issuing red flags to the management when it notices a suspicious transaction, right? So some of those things are there. Mahendra says, Tax Genie on our very own new IT portal powered using AI. Absolutely right. Satish says chatbots are becoming common these days, used by banks and many others. And Satish, you made an important point here regarding chatbots. But let me ask you this. How easy or difficult do you think is it to create a chatbot? It is extremely easy to create a chatbot. What if I told you, if you want, you can create a chatbot in about 2 hours and with zero amount of coding? That is how accessible technology has become. Imagine if you are a CA firm, you can create a basic chatbot on your website where people can just come in and interact with the chatbot, and chatbot can ask what kind of service are you looking for. Then he will say taxation. Then you can automatically give him the taxation material, your collateral and your services and things like that. And you can do all those things, right? Ramakrishna says sentiment analysis API has positive value, at the same time would be dangerous. Every technology is like that, sir. It can always be more dangerous. Okay, Niranjan says all returns will get filed by 5 p.m. on last hello. Oh, absolutely. Niranjan, this is the biggest reason why people are implementing so much technology these days, right? And one of the biggest use cases has been where companies who want to close their books of accounts, especially listed companies who need to give the results to the street, they are trying to crunch their book closure time more and more. When I started out as a CA about 10 to 11 years back, it used to take 15 days, 20 days, or even a month to close books of account. Today, all of that has come down, and every company, every controllership team is trying to close books of accounts in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and things like that. Shortcomings in audit by using AI. There can be many different ways, Vishwanathan sir, where there will be shortcomings in audit using AI. First of all, it can only do part of the work. The advisory always has to be your job. Second, if an algorithm is wrongly defined, it can screw you up also. So it is important for you to audit the code which is being used to audit. So you have to learn to audit the bot or audit the AI based system also, and have confidence that whatever we are creating is the right thing, right? If AI can resolve sentiment analysis, it's not child's play to automate CAPTCHA resolving. Why is it so difficult for CAPTCHA to come to protocol and respond? Okay. So Roy, it is tough. I'll explain it to you. Why is it tough? Now, in sentiment analytics, there is a rule where if the voice, there's something called a spectrogram or voice histogram kind of a thing. So if there are spikes and if the range is in certain decibels, it can do all of those analysis. With CAPTCHA, the images are random. So there are limited number of rules to work with. For example, if you're working with English as a dialect or Indian English as a dialect. You can have sets of rules. And there has been a lot of academic research in the past which can be used here. But with CAPTCHA, the way CAPTCHA has to work is you have to rely on the technology called computer vision and OCR. And computer vision and OCR as a technology is not very, very advanced today, and it cannot detect these curved letters. And you will have these, how many traffic lights do you see? It's difficult. Now, if the computer system had significant amount of time available, it could still solve it. But CAPTCHA also refreshes after say 30 seconds or something like that, right? So it makes it difficult. I know people who are building bots to deal with CAPTCHAs also, but it's tough. Yeah, it is definitely not child's play. Okay. COVID bot that I use for vaccination booking did enter CAPTCHA automatically. Yeah, absolutely. So in some cases, the automation is already built. See, the whole purpose of utilizing any technology is to make it secure, right? So there can be pre-built integrations which can be built. So for example, if somebody is building an app for automating COVID booking, they want you to proceed further. So there is a backend API based linkage which can help him in fulfilling those CAPTCHA requirements easily. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for all of this discussion, and it's great to have a very interactive session. This way we all get to learn together a lot, right? Okay, so moving on, now that you have seen a little bit of an example of, and we've done a little bit of brainstorming of what AI can do, I want to go a little bit deeper. Remember, I said one of the purposes of this session is for you to understand and be clear with all of these jargons and at least understand what are the different types of AI. So there are 3 different broad classifications of artificial intelligence. The first one is called artificial narrow intelligence, right? Which is powered by machine learning, right? Now, what is artificial narrow intelligence? It is a technology which specializes in only one area, and it solves only one type of problem. For example, if you look at these assistants like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, it only specializes in one area, which means you always have to use it on a mobile phone. You can use it only to play songs and to get driving instructions or to book your meetings or to respond to messages, so on and so forth. Till now, every single AI tool which has been built has been artificial narrow intelligence. So in the theoretical definition of how far can we go, we are still very, very far behind. The second level is called artificial general intelligence, or AGI, which is machine intelligence. Now here you are referring to a computer that might be as smart as a human. Now, if you look at Sophia is a little bit of an example of an AGI, but she isn't really a true AGI because, even today she's not as smart as a human being. It may take her some more time to become an AGI, but there are very, very few. There are some systems which claim to be artificial general intelligence, but today truly no system really is an artificial intelligence. And then finally, you've got the third level, which is called artificial super intelligence, and it is also known as singularity. And this is the concept where machine can get machine consciousness, right? So it can become much smarter than all the human machine can become more smarter than all the human brains in every field. So it's kind of like a godlike machine. You ask it should have every answer. So this is more of a pipe dream, I would say, and it's not really something which people can achieve. But artificial general intelligence is something where lots of companies are investing billions of dollars to do this, right? And some of those experiments, by the way, have failed in a very bad way. Not recently, I think this happened about 3 or 4 years back. Facebook had its own artificial intelligence program. And then one day the engineers saw that these AI programs were sending each other messages in some weird language. And they discovered that the AI built its own language to communicate between each other, and nobody knew what they were discussing, and they got very scared and they shut it off, right? So, but it was approaching this AGI kind of a thing, and from a reference perspective. Okay, I got 2 more chat comments. Rampavan says, with increase in AI technology, in case or 2, is our area of privacy narrowed? Well, Ram Pavan sir, unfortunately, privacy has become more of a myth, because today, if you use any public software like Google or any of these things, they actually access all of your emails, and privacy is tough. Even if you have an iPhone, it has access to your biometric also. It has access to your retina scan also, right? So our privacy is absolutely compromised. It is narrowed, and it's a big concern. If you ask me, I'm not too worried about AI taking over the world, but I am worried about people misusing the data. With all of this Aadhaar linkage and all those things, it's tough. The number of cyber crimes and frauds are too many. And yes, privacy is narrowed, because one of the ways in which artificial intelligence works, how many of you have heard about this? On browsers, they always tell you that I need permission to allow cookies, right? What are cookies? Cookies are a way which tracks everything what you do, and then it feeds it into an algorithm. Let's say if Facebook has put a cookie on your computer, it tracks whatever you're doing, what other applications are you visiting, what are the products you're offering, and it plugs that information back into its own AI platform. And then based on that AI platform, it basically gives you that data, and they show you ads and all those things, right? Shalaka says best example will be Legalmation by IBM, first of its kind AI platform to automate routine litigation tasks supported by the IBM Watson ecosystem. Shalaka, I'm a big fan of IBM Watson. I've been using it for quite some time. And for all of you who don't know, IBM Watson is actually one of the largest funded and one of the most invested AI-based platforms. And you can just go and sign up for as less as $5 for a small service and things like that. And so IBM Watson recently gave better legal advice than a panel of some 50 to 60 different legal consultants from various different countries. And yeah, IBM is really far ahead, but a lot of it is not public. A lot of it is actually still private, but that's a great example, Shalaka. And this is what I mean, as a community, we have to keep sharing these with each other. And one message I want to tell you guys again is, this is not complicated, guys. Trust me. I have worked with so many CAs over the past few years, and they have achieved phenomenal results, right? So it's not at all tough. Yes, it is something which needs rigor, it needs passion, it needs you to come in and do stuff, but it's not very tough. It's very, very accessible. So I'm very happy to see people coming with real examples. Okay, Ravi says it's now a choice between privacy and technology. Yeah, it is like that. Stop using an iPhone, stop using Google, stop using Amazon. It's tough, right? Great. Okay, so let me ask you a question now, right? According to you, what has been the biggest difference between a machine and a human being? Okay, and my question to you is more from the standpoint that, can you think of any scenarios where a human being is superior to a machine, right? So what has been those areas? And again, no right answers, no wrong answers, and we'll have a lot of fun with some of your reviews. What are those areas where human beings have been superior as compared to machines, right? And let's see, I've got your messages starting pouring in. Okay, humans have emotions. Okay, I know a lot of people will like emotions, but remember the Soul Machines video which we saw? At least machines can have started emulating those emotions very well, right? And there are lots of these emotion-based AI engines which do a very good job of emulating emotions. So yeah, they don't really have emotions, but there are academic papers which go with the notion that emotions can also get programmed. And you can tell a machine where to feel happy, where to feel sad, and all those things. Nagarajan says intelligence. Well, yeah, you can say that we have superior intelligence, but machines can have a lot of knowledge and intelligence as well. Emotional intelligence. Sunil says machines are created. Guys, one recommendation when you're sending these messages, send it to everyone. Send it to panelists as well as attendees. so that everybody can benefit from the wonderful snippets that you are sharing. Dinesh says emotional intelligence, self-awareness. Ajay ji, you have taken this to a spiritual level. Yes, humans have self-awareness, and that's a big differentiator. Human error is eliminated by machines. So that is where machines are superior. I want cases where humans are superior. Emotional intelligence, sentiment, feeling, cognitive skills. Okay. So Jayakumar ji, you said that cognitive skills, right? So machines are taking lots of decisions today. Even decisions with respect to surgical procedures and all the analytics work is done by cognitive skills. And I will show you some examples also today, guys. I have lots of examples and videos for you to make this fun, but machines can be told how to take decisions and they take those decisions, but yes, the decision making is limited. So what about CIA principles as basic objective of information security? I think this is in a different context. We can come back to this later. Human is natural, ethical perspectives, agility, flexibilities. We can create good mess out of simple tasks and machines can't. Yeah, that's a very good point, Niranjan. Yeah, and yeah, I can relate to it because I am like that. I complicate things sometimes. Human is unpredictable. Human can create more machine. There are times when prudence is required. Humans are creating machines. Sixth sense, yeah, Venkatramanji, I completely agree. You know, the sixth sense aspect is completely missing. Communication skills. Human beings are ranked #1 world's most dangerous creatures, as they can create or destroy anything they want. Oh yeah, I mean, who needs machines? We can fire a missile and get done with it. Man, God created, machines we create. Oh, absolutely. That's, you should, Gopal Krishnan, sir, that should be a quote on your WhatsApp status today. Huh? Or it can be on mine maybe. Man, God created, machines we create. Okay. Jugaad skills, Premnath. Oh, absolutely. That's a good one. Machines don't have jugaad. Yeah. Cunningness. Man can go mad, not machines. No, machines can go mad, Gopal Krishnan, sir. There are examples where there are machines who have wanted to have babies and they are teaching their babies to walk and things like that. And machines have also gone mad. Okay. Excellent. Great. So the reason I'm asking why or in what ways is there a difference between a machine and a human being? Because, you know, one of the biggest areas where a machine has been or a human being has been superior to a machine is that a human being used to learn from experiences, whereas a machine used to learn from programming, right? So that kind of limited the number of things which a machine could always do. And that is significantly changing now. And this is the reason I wanted to ask you this question, right? Now, there is a difference, and hence you have this concept called machine learning. Now, I want to introduce some of these jargons with you. In order for you to understand what machine learning is, I want to differentiate machine learning from programming, right? All of us understand how programming works and how typical programming has worked. Now, in the world of programming, you have a programmer who's sitting here who uses a computer as a device to feed in data and a program. The program tells the computer how to process that data and give a certain output, right? This is how programming has always happened. For example, if you want to create an application to capture data from a form, then the form is the program and the data is what is provided and the output is the completed thing. With machine learning, this is changing. In machine learning, you have a data scientist who will give data as well as the expected output to the computer. And the computer is supposed to give you the program. Okay, now let me explain this one more time. You do not need to write the code, which is the program. The code will be written automatically by the machine learning algorithm. So this whole process by which you give data and output and the machine creates a program, in the world of machine learning, this process is called training. Okay, so you're training the computer with lots and lots of data and the type of output to basically create the program. Now, this solves a major problem. You know, earlier computers could only do what they were programmed to do, but today they can be advanced enough where You can tell them that, look, this is my data, this is what I want the output to look like. Now you please build the program for me. Okay, so let me show you a video which will clarify how this thing happens. How does the machine convert data plus output into the program? So let's take a look at this video and then we'll come back to it.
Our ability to learn and get better at tasks through experience is part of being human. When we're born, we know almost nothing and can do almost nothing for ourselves. But soon, we're learning and becoming more capable every day. But did you know that computers can do the same? Machine learning brings together statistics and computer science to enable computers to learn how to do a given task without being programmed to do so. Just as your brain uses experience to improve at a task, so can computers. Say you need a computer that can tell the difference between a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat. You could begin by feeding it images and telling it, this one's a dog, that one's a cat. A computer programmed to learn will seek statistical patterns within the data that will enable it to recognise a cat or a dog in the future. It might figure out on its own that cats have shorter noses and that dogs come in a larger variety of sizes, and then represent that information numerically, organising it in space. But, crucially, it's the computer, not the programmer, that identifies those patterns and establishes the algorithm by which future data will be sorted. One example of a simple yet highly effective algorithm is to find the optimal line separating cats from dogs. When the computer sees a new picture, it checks which side of the line it falls on and then says either cat or dog. But of course there can be mistakes. The more data the computer receives, the more finely tuned its algorithm becomes, and the more accurate it can be in its predictions. Machine learning is already widely applied. It's the technology behind facial recognition, text and speech recognition, spam filters on your inbox, online shopping or viewing recommendations, credit card fraud detection, and so much more. At the University of Oxford, machine learning researchers are combining statistics and computer science to build algorithms that can solve more complex problems more efficiently, using less computing power. From medical diagnoses to social media, the potential of machine learning to transform our world is truly mind-blowing.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate that example and bring it back into this context of what happens in case of machine learning, because it's very important for everybody to understand how this works. Now, let's say that the data you have are images of cats and dogs. So you have about 10,000 images of cats and dogs. What output do you need? You want the computer to classify if an image is a cat or if an image is a dog. So imagine that you have an Excel file. You have 10,000 file names. Each file name has a physical file on the hard drive. You want the computer to classify which one is a cat and which one is a dog. What the computer needs to do now is find a way to create that program. The way this happens is you first feed the image of the first animal to the computer. The computer takes a wild guess and says, okay, maybe this is a dog. And then you tell the computer whether it is right or wrong. If it is right, then it takes notes and says, okay, wherever I can see a black face or something which has whiskers or big eyes, it's a dog. Next, you feed him the image of a cat, which looks like a dog, where maybe it has big eyes and whiskers and big ears. And the computer will naturally say, okay, this is a dog. But then you correct the computer saying, no, this is not a dog, it's a cat. Then it will compare those two images and create notes. And it continuously does this process for all of those images. This process is called machine learning, right? This is how everything works. Now, you might be thinking, but it's a very tedious process where I have to manually tell the computer every time if it is a cat or a dog. You basically automate this whole process, right? So you have the images first, and then after the computer gives the results, some other application tells the computer whether it was right or wrong. And this whole thing happens in a black box. So you don't see how the computer is actually doing it, but in the process, it continuously keeps increasing its accuracy levels. So initially it might be at a 40% accuracy or a 0% accuracy or whatever. You intend to come up to 90% or more accuracy. If you have hit 90% or more accuracy, typically you got a good machine learning algorithm. And for all the work in the world of financial compliance and making sense of data, detecting frauds and things like that, 90% plus or 92% plus is a very, very good ratio. And ultimately, through this process of training, it is able to create this program. So that was an example of how machine learning basically works. So now, what is the difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and there are so many other terms there. So first of all, artificial intelligence is the broad subset. It is the superset rather. This is something which encompasses everything else. Machine learning is just one way of how artificial intelligence works, but it is the most important way, right? So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. It is the mechanism by which you train existing machine learning algorithms, right? So what are these machine learning algorithms? Now, there are many different ways in which computers can learn or systems can learn. They are called learning algorithms. Now, traditionally, there have been three types of learning algorithms: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. But it is not the intention of mine here to get into technical depth. And there's a lot of reading material available. I can also send you some links later if you're interested. But the idea is machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. And then you've got another subset called deep learning. But deep learning is a subset of machine learning, where the way deep learning works is there is a particular algorithm in the world of machine learning called artificial neural networks, right? Now, it uses these artificial neural networks to simulate thinking just the way like a human brain would think, right? It creates multiple interactions between an input and an output. And deep learning is the technology which basically mostly works with images. So if some of you here, if you have used Google Photos, if you have your photo database backed up on Google Photos, you can go and see that if you search for sunset in Google Photos, it will automatically show all the photos where it has sunset, right? But how does it know? It doesn't know. You haven't told Google which photos have sunset in it. So the whole way this whole thing works is because it has a pre-built machine learning and deep learning algorithm that all of your photos are passed through those pre-built machine learning and deep learning algorithms to make sure that you reach there, right? And there are standardized algorithms which are used for every single type of thing, and they are being created every day. So one of the good things about this whole world of AI, machine learning, and deep learning is that most of these algorithms are open source and free of cost. So you can access them without much of a difficulty. But coming back to this particular image, you would realize that you need a lot of data to make any machine learning based process successful. And that sometimes becomes a big limitation. You cannot have very, very good results with any AI machine learning kind of a tool unless you have a lot of data, right? So, that's a good quick 101 on how AI and machine learning is and how does it work. I'll quickly go back and see what are your questions. Fatigue of humans will be made overcome by machines. What's your idea of machine talk being done today by many banking? Ami, if you can please, elaborate that question a little bit more. Maybe I can answer that. I could not understand this question. Okay. All right. Amit has asked, as a finance professional, how do we embrace technology and become tech savvy to take up various challenges? So Amit, I will cover a small section in the end, and I will answer at that point of time. Somdev has a question. Can you please guide us how RP audits are done and any specific compliance regulation standards? So this is a great question, Somdev, which you asked. Now, unfortunately, there aren't many, accepted and adopted standards which are there today in the RPA world. Specifically in the field of audit and compliance regulations, this is still a very, very evolving field. There is definitely a need to come back with the various different areas in terms of which tools have to be used in a certain way. There are many different companies which are using various different RPA tools in multiple different ways. So there are many different RPA tools available. For example, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, lots of them. And companies today use these tools to basically automate their processes. So if you look at the world of adoption of technology, companies, the way they have used it is that if they have a use case, they come in and they implement. But as an auditor, when you will need to audit the accounts which are created by specific tools, then in those cases, you will have to make sure that you understand how these tools work, right? So from a standards perspective, there is no real standards which are there right now. They are being created. And there are some private tools which have been made by different companies, but there is no tool which audits RPA-based accounting, Somdev, if that is what your question is, right? So I hope I've answered that. I'll be showing you some examples of this as well. Satyajit says, can you please focus on auditing intelligence tools in the practical world? Satyajit, sir, I'm sorry if this session is not helpful for you, but I will have to proceed with respect to what people are asking questions. That's the way I do my sessions. If you have any specific areas you need inputs on, you can always reach out to me later. Thank you so much. Let me see if there are some more questions. No more questions. Great. Thank you. All right. Okay, so now that you know that artificial intelligence is kind of the superset and machine learning is kind of like the subset, we also need to know what is the exhaustive set of capabilities of artificial intelligence. Now, remember, we said that machine learning is just one form of artificial intelligence, and there are many different other forms of artificial intelligence as well, right? Now, neural networks is one very, very important subdomain for artificial intelligence, and it is one of the most advanced algorithms for artificial intelligence which is being used today. And in things like spam filtering, fraud detection, speech recognition, image recognition, and even medical diagnosis, some of these neural networks are very, very important, right? So if you look at the way neural networks typically work, now, for any kind of automation to happen or any artificial intelligence algorithm to work, the idea is that there will be a training phase where you will create the particular algorithm, and that trained algorithm will be used to analyze inputs and convert them into outputs. So for example, if there is a certain input and that input is a collection of data streams which come in, and after that input comes in, there is a hidden layer of decision making, and every single input point is analyzed across multiple layers to give you the output. And every layer will give you a probabilistic determination of how the output should look like, right? So, for example, let's say that you want to take a decision of whether you want to go and eat ice cream or not, right? Then in your brain, there are actually many layers which decide whether you want to go and eat an ice cream. The first question would be, is it raining outside? If it is raining, then you would not go. So the answer to that would be either a yes or a no. Then the second question is, is the ice cream parlor open today? The answer to that would be a yes or no. Similarly, when you continuously train a data set with lots of different algorithms, it kind of creates these neural networks like structures, and that becomes similar to what are mimicked in the human brain. So it's similar to what the human brain basically functions. And that's a very, very important tool which is present there. Now, neural networks are prominently used in converting images into text or converting unstructured data into structured data. When we start working with the world of technology, specifically artificial intelligence, robotics, process automation, and some of these, one of the best adopted use cases thus far have been the cases where we've used technology to extract information from documents. For example, I'll also show you an example of a real system which is built using a combination of automation and artificial intelligence, which can do automated invoice processing from end to end. Right from the point of time you give it an invoice, it will pick it up, extract information, put it in the ERP, and done. So it's called touchless accounts payable, and I have personally implemented this solution for a couple of my customers as well. But the AI-based technology, which basically works behind extracting details from this various characters, which is also known as OCR, it is driven by neural networks. And there is a very good visualization which was done by somebody which makes you understand how these neural networks basically function. So let me just go ahead and play that video for you. So what you basically see on the screen right now, if you see, this is the number 6, but it is a handwritten number 6, right? Now, this is the input layer. Assume that you are scanning a particular document and the document has this character 6. And then behind the document, if you see, there are so many different, each of these individual dots are actually different rules of classifying what this image should be. And then it points back to an output, which you can see on the back, right? So let's take a look again. It's sometimes very difficult to imagine and visualize how this whole technology basically works. So I'm trying to give you some visual elements which will help you understand how these things work, right? The next very important piece of technology is the technology called computer vision. And the way computer vision works is that it is able to work with whatever you see on your screen, right? So for example, on the screen right now, there is a header box here. There are these little boxes of text here. It is able to detect whatever you see on the screen. And based on what you see on the screen, you can take certain decisions and move forward. And this is a very, very important technology, again, when you're working with any automation-based solutions. For example, if you want to build an AI-based tool to analyze if you are matching the right signature. So I was doing work with one of the banks in one of the Middle Eastern countries, where they wanted to build an AI-based system to match signatures on check with the signatures in the actual account, where the signatures do not need to be matched by using an existing human being, right? And that again works using the technology called computer vision, where you can scan that check and it uses the edge detection, pattern detection, and multiple different things to make sure that you're able to match that particular segment out there. And then, of course, we've already seen the example of natural language processing and speech recognition, where AI-based systems can basically understand what you're saying and make sense of it. Now imagine if you add a layer of analytics where it's basically that we are having this Zoom call now. Zoom actually has the capability to record the entire transcript of whatever I'm saying right now, and then later analyze that transcript for information and do text mining and multiple other things, right? So when you actually combine various technologies like these, that is when you can start imagining what use cases will basically come out and will be out there for all of us to adopt and use, right? Now, if you again saw the example of Sophia, it was an example where there were multiple technologies like natural language processing, speech analytics, sentiment analytics, neural networks, all of those things are working together at once. And that's basically how this whole world of the application layer of this will evolve, right? Now I want to make it slightly more contextualized in terms of, while different people have been talking about some of these technologies for a very, very long time, the hard reality is that in the world of finance and accounting till today, some forms of artificial intelligence based products have been built, but it is still a very, very nascent field where very limited products and very limited tools exist which can really do this. And this basically means that it becomes a great opportunity for people like you and me who have the functional knowledge to come and contribute and build some of these tools like these, right? So let me first give you an example of an AI-based system which is transforming finance. And I'm going to show you a video of automated invoice processing. Now here, what is going to happen is that, in fact, let me show you the other video. Yeah. So this is basically one of the AI-based implementations which we have personally done for one of our customers. And here, what is going to happen is, this is a customer where you have close to about 100,000 invoices which they process on a yearly basis, right? And invoice processing, as you know, is a very tedious task, and it involves a lot of manual activities. So what you will see here is this process is called touchless invoice processing or touchless accounts payable, and the process will involve a bot and an AI-based system working together, where the bot will automatically read all the emails, which will basically identify if those emails have invoices or not. And then based on those emails, it will download all of those invoices into a certain folder. And once those invoices are received, it will scan through those invoices to extract all the data. Once the data is extracted, then it is going to pass on that data into an ERP system. And as it is passing all the further details with a purchase order to do a three-way match to make sure that the PO, the GRN, and the invoice are in line. And all of these things are going to happen in a completely unassisted manner, where right from the point of time an invoice comes into the AP mailbox, it gets automatically classified into a valid or invalid invoice. The information gets extracted and it gets passed on to the relevant books of accounts, right? So I'm going to just walk you through this video here. And as I do this, you may start thinking of some of the areas where you possibly can think some of these technological areas to be implemented. And of course, you might have some questions regarding this whole process. So please be ready with your questions, if any, in this whole process, right? So let me just show you how this works. So right now you can see Gmail, where there's a new email which has, I think it has 4 different invoices. There is 3 and there's 1 more. And when we start this bot, and by the way, to create bots like these, you don't need to do any coding. It's not as difficult as it looks like. The first thing which it will do is that it will fetch all of these different documents. It will download them into a certain folder. If you can see, it has already done that. It saw 1 email with 4 PDFs, and all 4 of them were valid PDFs. So why does it say valid PDFs? Because it runs a whole check where if it has an invalid PDF or a PDF which does not have the right amount of data, it will classify them as a wrong invoice. So sometimes you can receive non-invoice based documents also in the folder. So it makes sure that you basically have the right inputs. Then it categorizes this in various different folders, like email downloaded, email extracted, etc. Right now, it is all in the email extracted folder because it has already extracted the details from there. And let's open up an invoice and see. You see it has the date, invoice number, the PO number, name of the party, name of the customer. It has line items, unit price, line total, taxes, etc. And what the bot will basically do is, and this is where the AI system comes into place, right? And theoretically, it is very important for you to understand the difference between pure automation and pure artificial intelligence based tools. Because as I mentioned earlier, everybody likes to say that everything is AI driven and all that, but that's not really the truth. Whenever you are working with unstructured data, you have to use a trained artificial intelligence algorithm. Whenever you are working with structured data, you don't necessarily need to use artificial intelligence. So till this point of time, where the email was being extracted, documents were being downloaded, etc., all we used is a robotics process automation tool. But the extraction of data from the invoices is a very intelligent activity. Why is it an intelligent activity? Because every invoice can be different. Suppose an organization has 500 vendors. Each vendor will have its own invoice format, its own way of sending that data, right? And the bot needs to be able to working with all of these different invoice data types. So this whole process of extracting data is something which is the realm of AI. And what it does is that it reads that PDF file, it extracts data in a Excel CSV file, right? So if you see the CSV file, it has everything. It has the name of the vendor, vendor number, invoice date, invoice number, currency, amount, the whole 9 yard at a line item level. And once this entire data is extracted, it basically moves to the next process, which is where it files this in the ERP system. So for this customer, they were using Oracle. You can use any ERP system. The way the system works is that it will log in into the whole system just like a human user would. And right now, this is a manual input where we are specifying the batch name in which the transaction has to be processed. Once it is specified, if you see, it opens up the browser window, because Oracle, to log into Oracle, you need to go through the browser, and it navigates the right screens where you can enter the information about the invoices. And once you've navigated to the right screens, then based on that, you basically go ahead and give all of your inputs, and it will just, let me just move it forward slightly. Yeah. So it comes to the screen, and if you can see here, it starts entering the batch name first. And once the batch name is entered, it starts entering details for all the invoices. So it will first enter the header level information for the invoice. If you see, this data is being entered in real time on its own. And after this data is entered here, once the header level information is entered, it needs to move down and enter the line level information. So it would enter the line level information of first line item, second line item, so on and so forth. And while it is entering the line level information, it will also check with the purchase order if the line item was open. If you see here, it is checking with the purchase order number, which was mentioned there. And for that PO, it is checking if the line item had the right data or not. Right? And that's basically the whole process, and it continues doing it on its own. Now, imagine if this entire continues to happen on its own in a way that no human being needs to come in and intervene. That becomes a very, very important part of the whole puzzle, right? Guys, I think there is something wrong with my internet connection. Let me just stop my video because I'm getting a message of unstable connection. And I saw some people raise their hands. It probably could have been because of that, right? So I'm sorry for the poor connectivity at my end today, right? That was an example of how we are using the technology of artificial intelligence and RPA together in terms of working and doing some wonders. We've got Ravi, who has a question. Guess this invoice processing works on PDF created by the system or even scanned PDF images received physically by the company and not on email. So Ravi, that's a great question. Typically, there are some conditions which need to be followed before you can certify that whether a system would process these invoices or not. There are multiple different OCR engines which are available. Some of those OCR engines are able to process the non-system created PDFs also, but the accuracy there is not very strong. First of all, if it's a PDF created by the system, then accuracy is very, very good. Second scenario, if a PDF is created by a system which is printed and sent to somebody and then somebody scans it, then the scanning resolution has to be at least 350 dpi. If the scanning resolution is at least 350 dpi, then it goes ahead and does a good job of it. In case the scanning resolution is slightly lower, then it might not be able to do a very, very good job of it. And for handwritten invoices and invoices which are not system generated, there's a 50-50 chance. There are chances where it will process it, chances where it will not process it. So the way this is handled is that you create workflows where whatever is not recognized by a bot, it will tell you that, hey, my AI-based engine is not trained enough to see it. And if you get similar invoices which are significant in number, over a period of time, you keep training the system, Ravi. And based on the training, your system is able to detect more and more of such invoices accurately. Typically, in my experience, when you implement a system like this, it takes a period of 6 to 7 months to hit 90% accuracy. You would start with about 60 to 65% accuracy in day one, and then based on some more time, you will move it a little bit further. We've got one more question And then Amit, I will answer your question also now. So the question is, if anybody wants to make the career in these fields, then what is a better choice in the near future, AI or RPA? So, that's a very good question. I would say you start with RPA first, simply because it is easier to learn. And while you learn RPA, you will automatically start understanding elements of AI. Because if you start getting into automation projects in the accounting world, inadvertently, you will have to deal with unstructured data, large volumes of data, and unstructured documents. And since you do that, you always have to automatically learn about AI as well. But it is much quicker, faster, and cheaper to start working with RPA. And I always advise people to start with RPA first. Now, Amit, your question was, as a finance professional, how do we embrace technology and become tech savvy to take up various challenges? Amit, the very first thing is curiosity. Your presence here itself basically certifies that you have that curiosity there. Start by thinking of a possible use case which you can implement. So if you are doing practice, think of a way, for example, if you're doing taxation compliance work, then think of a way where you could automate filing of your tax returns. If you're doing accounting outsourcing for your customers, think of a way where you could do automated reconciliations, right? If you're doing any other piece of work, start with a use case. Then do your research. This use case can get filled with which technology? I would again say, start with RPA as the first choice of your technology. And if you're able to go with that, nothing like it. And most probably it will solve your problem. If not, do your research. You will always have ways to do something with it. But I often discourage people from going a route where they start learning all of these different things without knowing where to apply it. That's a dangerous route. And that basically, discourages a lot of people because it gives bad results. So the way you should do it is, first think of a use case, then think of implementing that use case on it. Then Dwarkanath sir asks, are there any CATs suitable for small and medium firms of CAs? So, there are many which are available in the market, but some of them, in my view, are still very, very nascent. There are many, small private players who are creating their own tools, but it is something which is still in the nascent phase. And of course, there are small tools which you can always use. You can use CATs also. And then there are many websites which offer some small assistant tools for auditing, automating auditing, or automating some compliance work. And you can do your research on that. But there are not very, very good comprehensive tools so far for automating end-to-end pieces of the work, right? Okay. We've got one more question from WebHub. Can you suggest some AI-based invoice reading programs which we can use in our day-to-day practice? So WebHub, I would suggest that you try out, I'm going to give you a few names. There is this tool called IQBot. IQBot is built by a company called Automation Anywhere. That's one. Second, there is a tool called Abby Flexi Capture, ABBY, Abby Flexi Capture, right? Third, there is a tool called Rossum, ROSSUM. So there are many such tools which are available. And most of these tools will have an evaluation period or a trial period. So you can just check it out for free. And then, of course, recently, Microsoft also has launched their platform called the Power Automate platform. And on the Microsoft platform, you already have a tool called AI Builder, which you can use to read invoices and do all of those things. So you can do that as well. Okay. Good, guys. Once again, thank you so much for keeping it interactive and asking your questions. I really appreciate that, right? Some more real world examples from how people are using it. So JP Morgan Chase recently has created a platform called the Contract Intelligence Platform. And one of the big things, and whoever here does work in revenue assurance and contractual due diligence and all those things, reading contracts is a big pain, right? It's something where you have to deal with lots of long lines of text and documents. And what JP Morgan recently did is, using AI, they built a solution of going through all the documents, highlighting the right amount of visibility in terms of if there are any essential things which should be highlighted, any risk areas. So typically, where the review of 12,000 annual commercial credit agreements would take about, say, 3.5 lakh man hours, they were able to do it just in a few hours. So this is one use case. Then, recently there's this very amazing video you can see on YouTube where AI is being used to send out drones. It scans the topology of the land to identify where would you have fertile soil. And based on that, it shoots down these, seeds which can help in sprouting plants and things like that, right? Now, in terms of the various platforms which can be used for you to get started, and I saw that somebody had also asked a question earlier that please share the link of the IBM platform. You can just go and search about it, right? All the big tech companies, right, from Google to IBM to Microsoft to Amazon to Facebook, their biggest investments today are in the terms of AI platforms. So the way they are structured is, now let's take the example of Amazon Web Services. On Amazon Web Services, if you sign up with them, they have a pre-built servers which can be used to process AI algorithms. Now, to process artificial intelligence, of course, you need a lot of computing power, as you're already aware of it. And that computing power gets available to you in a subscription-based format. So lots of people are using that same server, and you can go ahead and subscribe to that. So you can just go and look at TensorFlow, for example, was one of the legendary, new innovations in the field of machine learning. Almost all the modern deep learning algorithms and machine learning algorithms are built using TensorFlow. And of course, for IBM, you have the IBM Watsons. These are some of the prominent AI-based platforms which are out there. Now, some of you also asked in terms of, are there any AI-based auditing platforms available? There are a few of them. There are a couple of them which have been created in India as well. And then one of the ones I'm really impressed with is created by this Canadian company called MindBridge, right? And they have created a fantastic product, right? And but it's a very, very expensive product, that being said. I think it cost almost $3,000 per month to use that product. It's expensive, but it's very, very good. But for you to understand how AI can help in AI tools can help in auditing, you can just go check this out from a concept perspective. And then there are some more tools which are coming out there, right? I think I have one more question. So Ravi says, assuming there is an accuracy rate of 90% in machine-fed invoices in the accounting system, does not the auditor's duty get enlarged to chase for the rest of the 10% of the invoices which may be inaccurate, in which case he will have to check 100% of the invoices? So Ravi, great question, right? Now, the entire initiative of doing an invoice processing automation, the way this works is, if you break down the job of an accounts payable team, a large part of the job involves scanning, indexing, data extraction. After this is done, it's a very small part to initiate approvals and make the payments. Now, invoice processing is a field where inherently, you wouldn't really approve an invoice if it is incorrect. And even if you build these automated systems, it still requires a manual approval from an approving authority or the AP manager, right? So in all the systems which I have seen, till the time, even if you reach a 90% accuracy, the final approval will be done by a human being. So a human being can still maybe, for some time check the invoice. But you're absolutely right? In case you detect that there are issues with the way the invoices have been processed, it is a potential red flag area. And, it's a great point which you raised right now. And potentially there can be solutions where if you feel that the invoice processing automation solution has been built, then in that case, the invoice processing automation solution also has to be automated. The audit of that also has to take place, where you have to look at the process design document. So for any automation solution which is built, a very important document which you need to study from an audit perspective, there are two of those documents. The first document is called the process design document. The second document is called the solution design document. The process design document gives you an entire walkthrough of the entire process flow of how that solution or how the accounts payable function typically works today. And the solution design document is a solution walkthrough of how the automation is done. So you can look for loopholes inside the solution design document, where you can see if there are certain exceptions which are not handled well, or if the approval hierarchies are not handled well, so on and so forth, right? So Okay, and you also say that your brother works in a company where payment is automated up to a certain level. Yes, so it's not uncommon, Ravi. Once again, payments can get automated for a certain threshold for PO-based invoices. If the POs are not exhausted and if the accuracy level is high, it's not very, very tough, and people are definitely moving in that direction. Vaibhav has a question: what is the use of Microsoft Power BI? Is it an AI-based program? So Vaibhav, Power BI is basically a visualization tool, right? So imagine whatever work you do on Excel today, and you create your pivot tables and charts and all of that. Power BI can do that in a much more better way, in a much more intuitive way, where you can basically drag and drop fields and create very beautiful looking graphs and charts, and you can also automate some of the efforts there. It's not really AI based at all. It is something which is based purely on the way of data analytics and being able to analyze data. Jijil asked, do we have any tools which evaluates the accuracy and adequacy of AI audit tools to ensure that the required parameters required are covered? So Jijil, we are far away from that right now. Today, we are at a stage where even there are very, very few tools which are, even capable of doing audit using AI. And we are far away from that right now, but ultimately there will be. And I personally foresee, there will be three very big areas of opportunities. And I wouldn't even say opportunities, but these will become like a mandatory requirement for a CA doing an audit. Number one, you need to be able to audit books of accounts and accounting systems, which are co-created using bots and humans, because almost everybody is going to go and implement automated solutions in the way they do things. So how do you audit that landscape? How do you give assurance on the security? That is going to be number one. Number two is the requirement to implement your automation in the way you do your audit. See, because one of the biggest themes which is everybody is hearing in the world of audit today is that random sampling is going away. Clients today no longer want random sampling. They want to make sure that 100% of the data set is evaluated, which is only possible if you use some of these, analytics and analytics tools and automation tools as part of your AI procedures. So that is going to be the second biggest opportunity in terms of knowing how to do that. And there are very few people today who know either of these two things. The third big opportunity, of course, is to provide advisory to companies who are building such tools or technology firms who are trying to build some of these tools. And guys, trust me, there is very, very little talent available right now, where you have people who can combine the knowledge of some of these advanced technologies with the functional and domain knowledge of what we have right now. So, that becomes a big area as well. So Jijil, but to answer your question, we are still far away from that. We don't really have tools which are capable of doing that. We've got one more question from Roy. Suppose a document is designed by the perpetrator to defeat the AI audit procedure and he succeeds. Doesn't it open a Pandora's box of avenues? Suppose it defeats the analytics tool and automation tool use. So Roy, whenever you build any piece of technology, and there is always a risk where the technology can be misused. Especially when you have a bot doing these transactions, you can always have these malicious areas. And this is precisely the need of creating these digital standards, the digital accounting standards, and the adoption standards which need to be adhered to make sure that some of these areas are classified. And that is also the real reason why even today, when some of these technologies are being implemented, every single document still gets scrutinized. See, but that being said, mostly if some of these functions are rule-based, for example, accounts payable, I cannot really think of many scenarios where it can pass through all of the gates. For example, if there's an invoice, that invoice has to first match an approved vendor created in the system. It has to match the purchase order in the system. It has to match the open quantities in the system. The rate has to match. Lots of different scenarios have to match, right? And sometimes, and because of all of these gates, which may or may not exist for different organizations, it becomes very important that when you look at using technology or implementing technology, it has to be done in a very, very structured and a controlled environment, where you have to make sure that all of these different pieces are stitched well together, right? Excellent, great. So guys, now I want to show you one more video, and this will give you some more ideas in terms of how you can use artificial intelligence, and specifically where can you get started, right? Where should you get started? How should you be thinking? How can you build your community and expand your practice, and understand how to start implementing these technologies? So let's take a look.
How do you analyze situations that are constantly in flux? How do you detect patterns that are too complex to find? The world of artificial intelligence has opened up new horizons everywhere, including auditing. As an auditor, you don't need to understand all the intricacies of a technology to use it, but you do have to understand its potential and be ready to reap the benefits for your firm and for your clients. So, how do you get into the AI game? First, learn how to participate. Find out what automation and AI tools are in the marketplace and become familiar with their capabilities. And explore resources such as emerging tech news feeds, publications, videos, and events you can tap into. Then make connections. Look within your own organization to discover who the automation and AI leaders are, or if you are the first, join an external networking group. Ask them what tools they are using and for any advice on getting started in this area. It won't take long before you start recognizing opportunities for automation that you may have previously overlooked. But to automate any process, you need digital data. To make sure you're well positioned to maximize automation, start with obtaining evidence from clients in an electronic format. A common area to start is to automate processes that are consistent and repetitive, such as copying and pasting information or working across multiple data sources. Imagine the time savings of a bot rebuilding the financial statements from underlying data, allowing the auditor to focus on identifying errors and misclassifications. Lead sheets and variance analysis would be available at the push of a button, with pre-designed analytics on journal entries, outstanding receivables, aged inventory, and investment valuations. This would in turn shift your time from data collection and manipulation to higher order analysis and evaluation. Or you can take intelligent automation to the next level and leverage AI's pattern recognition capabilities to detect anomalies that auditors can then investigate. Complex patterns and correlated impacts can be detected and analyzed through the use of AI far more accurately and efficiently than ever before. For example, AI could be used to analyze uncollected debt at the customer level to challenge management's prediction of collection risk. Or AI could be used to predict the valuation of an investment, including privately held investments that are more difficult to price, like real estate properties or private equity. Finally, never stop innovating. How do you analyze?
Okay, guys, so this is basically, I mostly had for you today then, and I hope that I was able to take you to some level of curiosity. And for those of you who really want to start adopting technology and move forward, all the best to you and congratulations for taking that really bold step. Very few people actually have the courage of learning these new things and moving forward with it. So guys, all the best, and please stay connected with me. This is my LinkedIn ID. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I'll be very, very happy to be of assistance to you in any shape or form. If there's anything which you need help with, please feel free to drop me a note. And at the same time, there are some papers which I have written of how you can implement AI and automation in taxation, in internal controls, in audit. And I will copy paste the links of these in the chat box, but they're also available on my LinkedIn profile. So I would love to stay connected with you. Once again, thank you so much for being very interactive and asking these questions. It's a long journey, and right now we are at a point of time where there is too much promise which the world awaits, and people need people like you and me who can talk the language of finance and at the same time marry technology with it. So guys, thank you so much for being here, and all the best. And I hope that I was able to add some value today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saurabh sir. Actually, it was great indeed hearing you, understanding the three subsets like artificial learning, machine learning, and deep learning. And I think for most of us today, it was the first outer subset where we got a broad level idea about artificial intelligence, and it will need time for us to do a lot of reading and go into deep into artificial learning. Thanks a lot for sharing the knowledge. Now I would request Sri Abhishek Zaure, Managing Committee Member, Pune ICAI, to give formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Abhishek sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Saurabh sir. It was a very nice session. A lot of insights I could hear for almost entire 2 hours. I postponed my lunch and I said, let's give it a call. And I found out a lot of interesting ideas, few of which any one of us in our normal day-to-day practice or business, which you can use. I see a lot of future in algorithm trading. Nowadays, algo trades are now National Stock Exchange, or in India, Bombay Stock Exchange also is now providing a data vending services. Going forward, there's a huge scope of AI or using a technical analysis in algorithm trading. That aspect is what I could see from my perspective, like what insights I could get from trading perspective. One more automation you talked about was making about external confirmations or the calls. There's one company which is an Indian company and which has made a huge revenues from it, Exotel. It has now become a unicorn. It has got almost a $2 billion valuation now. It's in private space, but they utilize this service of making automated calls to the customers for banking industry, for a telecommunication industry. Imagine we as an auditor or we as a professionals can give a recommendation to our client whereby Exotel helps you to do automation of simple tasks, maybe a external confirmation from customer balances or anything else, routine audit processes where you can make a routine calls. So Exotel has built onto it. So this is good ones. And for in auditing part, there's one more company which is in United States, which is doing a great job, Palantir Technologies. It is formed by a person, Peter Thiel, who was founder of PayPal, and he is now there on the Facebook's board of director also. So he has come up with an technology which is in sourcing. While you make a procurement decisions, how to make an intelligent procurement decisions and analyzing your spend. He's right now doing it for the US Army or US Defense Services, but same can be applied for commercial organizations, and they have started up the platform of analyzing your expenses and various revenue centers and forecasting for Palantir Technologies. I request audience to go through the Palantir's website. It's a wonderful one. It's a almost a $40 billion enterprise that they have created. Wonderful technologies. So good insight that you gave on various topics. I really thank you on behalf of all the members and the fraternity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor being here. And I must say that, one of the more educated audiences, and even the examples which you gave right now, I'm going to look them up. I did not know about either of them. So it's something which, you basically keep learning every day. And, I can definitely see that some of the CA fraternity will change in a major way.
Time is yet to come, sir. I am involved in a lot of young members, so times will change. I think the chartered accountants will surely play a role, and our institute hopefully, let's say, changes the curriculum more towards analytics rather than from memory things. I hope Niyar Bhai will take up a new initiative. And for the benefit of members, there is one more board that is started by ICAI yesterday, which is focusing on for audit quality. Center for Audit Quality, CAQ. That board has given the various parameters. That board has given various parameters for the purpose of deciding quality of audit that we perform as a professionals. So you visit a lot of that they have given a criteria as to on human side, on your practice side, on use of technology. Various aspects of a practice are being given there by the Center for Audit Quality, CAQ. This is launched yesterday only. So going forward, I see a chartered accountants fraternity playing a great role. Thank you everyone for patient listening for over 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow for the second day session. Bye.